G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Scoot. I hope this is working now. This is going to be a very ad hoc stream today. If you guys can see me, please let me know in chat that you can see me. Yeah, I'm going to be running partially solo today. I do have SA stopping by and I do have Badges stopping by, but unfortunately Algrid couldn't make it this week, so I'm generally going to be running solo. I just realized I didn't turn these lights on. There we go. That's a bit better. Yeah, but how are you guys? Also, obviously, we're going to do mainly questions this week. ISC is going to be a little light. So yeah, I hope you guys are well. Other than that, I'll get the bot up and we'll get the questions pouring in, hopefully. Fingers crossed. All right. There we go. Bot is running. Awesome. Cool. Also, if you, I was gonna say, I might see if I can pull in some other guests along the way. We'll see. Other than that, hope you guys are well. I'm just sending a text message to someone. There we go. All right. With that then, okay, looks like we were going up on both sides. Cool. Awesome. All right, so shoot your questions to me and we'll get started. And obviously as ISC pulls in, we'll go over that. And anything else you guys want to go with? I did point out that this episode is going to be a little ad hoc because I've had to make many things work in the background to pull this off because I'm having people coming in and leaving at the same time. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Luminalia, full swing. Are you guys happy with how that's kicked off? I know for myself, I'm actually enjoying it a lot more than last year. No more handlebars, thanks God for that. But with that, giving away starships. Oh, right, I haven't changed the title on Twitch. Thank you very much. I will do that now. Hang on. I see. And there we go. That is fixed Arini. Twitch fixed. Okay. Right, got a question coming in, hopefully. Zalath asks, has ISI given us our PINS awards yet for attending all of the AIE days? What? That's a thing? Does anyone else know about that? I've never heard of that one before. But no, I've never heard of that thing. Has RSI given us our PINS awards yet for attending all of the AIE days? I don't think that's a thing. There's a forum badge for every single day? Really? Oh, I didn't know about that. Although that's new for me, if that's the case. I've already got so many forum badges, I don't know what to do with them. Let's just put it that way. I've got them going all the way back to Kickstarter, so... yeah, the only one I haven't been able to get, actually, is the... what was the one? And I've tried like 4 times and I just get stressed with it and I end up quitting. The one, Hyper Vanguard Force. The one for doing that, the Apex Predator, the pink one. I wasn't able to get that one. Every time I've tried to do it, I miss out, so yeah. Can someone, Michael, can you link me the, like a link to the images of them or something like that? Could someone link me one of those, please? And I'll pull them up and have a look at them. Yeah. All right. Yeah, apparently it's a forum badge. I didn't know that was a thing. A couple of people on Twitch are saying the same thing. They didn't know that either. So yeah. Alrighty. It's really weird. It's like... I think Question Bot's having a heart attack. Yep. Alright, I'm going to restart the chat bot. That's what the bot was having a heart attack. Hold on. Let's try it one more time. Alright, he's restarted. I'll have to keep an eye on him. Give me a little fickle thing, this bot. But when it works, he's very, very handy. There we go. Alright, working awesomely now. You can ask any question you want. Mr. Butler, Mr. Butter 007 asks, guys, do you know if I can ask any questions during the live stream regarding ships, etc., or is it just regarding the event? You can ask any questions you want, mate. I will do my best to answer them. J Voodoo Child asks, does the Nomad Holiday Starter Pack with $1.25 for digital download hold more time saving in game than an $1.25? There's a pack for $1.25. That is a bargain. I assume you have typoed there, and that is not what it's meant to say. Then an $80 LSO token, 10-year launch, or am I not likely live in chat? I don't know if I can answer that, Voodoo, because you've butchered your English. So we'll have a look at the starter packs. Obviously, we can do that now. Actually, hang on, give me a second. I will pull it up. I assume you're talking about the ones available for the sale. Just give me a memento. There we go. All right. I do not have this set up, so this will look weird when I flick it over the first second. Just give me, because it's got this spinny thing on the side for someone that's not there right now. That one, bang. All right. Start packs, pledge store. Righty. Yeah, considering all these won't come with LTI, I think you just want to go for the cheapest one. That's where my brain goes, so I'd probably just be going at Aurora. I really wish they just permanently offered these with LTI. I really, really do. The other way to look at it is to get the Nomad, there is a pack that's available all the time. It's not on this holiday special thing, but if you go into game packages, for 71, you can get a Mustang combo pack, or is it this thing? $65, my bad. I'm talking Australian pricing, obviously. But yeah, for 75, that's probably the best bet there at the moment. Yeah, I'd probably say the Avengers is a good one as well, considering you're discounting $16, but yeah. I don't know, I just really wish they all came with LTI. I think that should be just a staple thing, but then it kills their their FOMO for LTI tokens, so that wouldn't work anymore. So yeah, yeah, I'm more about like getting the game and then just leave this ship sitting there and go get another ship type of thing. So for me, it's just get the combo pack and move on. If you're trying to get a friend into the game, obviously you can get these ones and their discounts. You know, an Avenger's a good one. Obviously the Cutter now. So for me, I'd go Cutter, Avenger, and the combo pack. I hope that answers your question, Voodoo, to the best of my ability. Right, going back to this. All right, next question we have is Kyle Smith asks, question, what confirmed 3.18 features do you think could be released with PES as a 3.5 patch if PES isn't already ready before CO2 goes on holiday? No, they'll push it out. They'll push something out ready for it. Very, very common that they'll put it to open PTU for all for the holidays. It's been a running thing a couple of years now, so I don't think at this point they're gonna do that. In fact, I also think if you kind of look at how how do I put this? If you've been following the Evocado patches, I think they're taking the extra time to polish it as much as possible, so when they go away, it's got polish. You know, that several times like, oh, it's coming today, it's coming today, it's coming today, and then they've just delayed it and delayed it and delayed it because of little bugs. So I think they're really are polishing it as much as possible in my eyes anyway. But yeah, I'd rather they didn't push it out if they, didn't and just hold it back and, release it when it is good. I'm one of those people. I'm not one of the we must have now because they said they would give it to us for this type of people. I'm more one of the people that just, do it when it's done and make sure it's good. So yeah, that's me. Ace Hambone, $10 super chat. Thanks for the streams. I think for a few extra dollars, the 315p is the best single player ship. No, don't get me wrong. I actually think that'll be a really good ship once the tractor beams come online. So when I'm talking about packs, I am probably talking about the now in that regard. I really should clarify because there's things that change obviously as they move on, don't they? So yeah. Next question. For real, they patch like every 2 days. Yeah, they are, especially in Evo. Yeah, 100%. Who was up to? Grim42 says, question, with the 600i we're confirming more functionality, is it now worth purchasing versus the Carrick? No, I don't think it is. I still think the Carrick's got even more. That's my biggest problem with Origin. They just don't do enough, especially to validate their price tag. I don't think they're bad. I just think they could be a lot better for their price tag. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that, Grim. I think I did kind of bring that up, honestly, in that episode we did recently. The Origin sucks changed my mind. If you watch that episode, I think that's kind of still where I'm at. Is that I just want, like, I don't hate them. I'm trying to be positive and saying I want them to do more. It's just some people see that as a negative, and it's not a negative. Wanting something better for something is a positive, not a negative. So yeah. Zavith asked, question, has RSI given us our pins? We asked that already, Zareth. Why are you asking again? I don't know. Anyway. Dan Little 2010 asked, question, what do you think the price of the Crucible Endeavor will increase to? Ooh, there's a tough one. The Crucible, I don't think is going to go up too much. I think I'd say $50 to $100. I think that's safe for the Crucible. The Endeavor is a much more harder beast to quantify because it, like, at its maximum, it could go to $1,000. If it really doesn't increase much beyond what it is right now, maybe $100, right? So it's such a broad thing. But if you look at the banner merchant man and you look at it and you know that it's going to increase potentially to a capital size ship, you've got to go, well, that's got the same potential to do what the banner merchant man isn't currently doing. So it's one of the reasons we talk about that. And this ship's got a lot of gameplay behind it. Like, you look at the banner merchant man, it's a cargo ship and a shop ship. This has got every module you've seen for an Endeavor is a completely different gameplay. So that you're essentially, look about how people carried on about the RSI Galaxy and it having modules. The Endeavor's that on crack, right? So, or ever crack. So if you kind of look at it that way, that's the big difference. And that's really hard to quantify. How do you put so much gameplay into a ship? And that's why John Crew's scared of it, because it's got so many different things in it and these massive big modules, and every module has got it's got so much thing that could go wrong with it, because not only is it just like, here's a square room and you swap it out, you might also notice is every single module is a completely different shape. So it just makes it really, really complicated how that works, because a really cheap way to do it is literally just have it saved as a completely separate ship. But because you can mix and match with that thing and it goes all over the place, does that mean they actually save it as like 10 different ships? You start to understand the complexities when it runs through like that. Someone could probably do that. In fact, we could probably do this show. What is the complete number of compositions of modules for the RSI, not RSI, is it? It's MISC Endeavor. Because if you've got those 3 slots and you can mix and match, that really, what happens if you just put one module on it and that's it? So just there alone, you've got hundreds of combos, like a 3-pin code. Yeah, that makes it interesting. All right, Grim42 asks, with the 6, no, you asked that already. North asks, what would you like to see, or should there be TVs on the ships? I think there are going to be TVs. They talked about it in the past about doing like broadcasts and stuff on the TVs. So, they might do news articles going, today in Stanton, 72 people died in a terrorist attack, stuff like that. And they might even get content creators to do like lore posts and stuff like that, and things like that. So yeah, I think that is going to be a thing, and especially with the way they've built the tools in this game, that they can do things fairly cleverly and on the fly. They might have a asteroid strike coming to strike a planet, and if everyone doesn't get there and mine the crap out of it, or something, it's going to crash and kill the planet or something like that. They've talked about dynamic events before, but they've also talked about like one-off events and stuff like that. So I think with the way this game's going, that's all possible. If that kind of answers your question, because I know I did tangent a little bit there. Dax asked, it's not a question, still forgive me for that. Just wanted to say well done on the giveaway stream that made the other day. Oh, thanks, Dax. I appreciate it, mate. Yep. I'm glad you Did that as well. Yeah, we're still got in the process of getting some of the stuff to some people because we've got a bit of things working in the background at the moment, but everyone should have their stuff. The packages are all being out. I'm talking about all the upgrades. So things like, you know, how we promise people CCUs or a cutlass instead of a cutter and things like that. Those should all be sorted by the new year, hopefully, or just after the new year. So yeah. Kiblams says, how many previous announced medium large ships have they been released this year? Man, why do you ask such tricky questions? Not many. Gonna be honest with you, like I think that's the weak spot. They're the ones they've kind of left the last, are the medium large. They've kind of done a lot of the capitals and a lot of the smalls. We're waiting on a lot of those things like you know, the medium salvage ship. I guess we've got the mole's probably the only real one like that for the medium mining, but we don't have a large miner as an example. You know, we've got the Apollo, we've got the RSI medical, no science in medium or large. So you know, we've got the no large or medium. I guess technically the Vulcan's a medium, so we've got no real large repair ship. So you can go through and start to see that there are gaps in the lineup, so to speak. So yeah.
See ya.
You on camera, mate?
I am indeed. I need that as a little thing every time I kind of appear.
What? I really just sell it.
Just like the whole saying Perseus in a really kind of meaningful and dramatic way. I think that would be good.
You are not on camera. Not at all. I've just checked every single one, and you're not on camera. camera 2.
I'm on 2.
Okay.
I'm on 2.
All right.
2's calling you a liar.
Something is not right. Let me have a look.
Yes. Also stream for me, Daddy.
Yep, will do. You are on the right thing. I had the wrong thing turned on. Sorry about that. There you go. Streaming for you now. There you go. Welcome, Badgers.
Hello. How are we all?
That was the most awkward 15, 17 minutes of my life. I hate streaming solo, as anyone knows. Drives me mental. So yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. Yeah,
I feel like I'm talking at a wall.
It's been a champ holding the fort while I've been unfortunately, I've only just made it back from work, so yeah, I was like, X, I'm really sorry I haven't eaten or anything yet. So yeah, thanks, mate. Appreciate it, buddy.
That's no fun. And you've got you're only here for a couple of hours too, and then you've got to head off. But SA is going to come along and take your place. So hopefully, it's all I could get at short notice. But Algrid's got some family issues on at the moment, so you know it's that time of year. So we wish him well, and he hopes that he gets those sorted and come back with us. Well, we won't be having a stream next week actually because it's Christmas, and stuff like that. So we'll take Christmas off because, like, you can obviously tell from chat today, it's a bit quiet than usual, and I assume it'll be even more quiet next week. So we're going to take the opportunity to take one off, but then we'll be back with one just before the new year, and then kind of back to normal. So hopefully, but yeah,
sounds like a plan.
That's what. But there's a very big disconnect. So someone just said in chat, execute talks into the void, and the void throws questions back. Yeah, it does feel a little bit like that. There's just I'm a very bouncy person. I kind of react off other people, so when I'm just on my own talking, I feel very awkward, you know.
There's a great quote from someone, I forget who it is, but it's something about there's no problem with staring off in the void. The problem begins when you start to ask yourself whether or not the void is staring back, and I guess in this case they kind of are.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. It may sound like Coke Zero, but actually it's just neat alcohol disguised as a non-alcoholic beverage. Yes. Because that's how my work's going around about now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we don't have to talk about your work if you don't want to, but I think the easiest thing to say, you're under the pump at the moment. That would kind of cover it, wouldn't it?
It's a little bit busy. Yeah. It's a little bit busy.
All right, here's a question from Rev13 who asks, what would be the reason somebody may choose an Odyssey over a Carrick? I think that's pretty obvious, but you tell me. What's your answer to that one?
Odyssey over the Carrick. The Odyssey for me is a great industrial explorer. Far out for the whole, hard to reach, hard to scratch mining places. Going out there and finding the really rare, really valuable stuff that like is in every game, right? Every game from WoW to EVE, they all have that kind of really high risk but really high reward rare mineral. That's the Odyssey's bullpuck.
Yeah, you'd want to really be into scanning, and you'd want to be a really patient person, I think. But every time it pays off, it'll pay off fairly big. And you'd be a really thorough, meticulous person. You know those like loot goblin people that grab everything in a dungeon? It's like that, but the whole dungeon is a planet, and you're going across the entire planet, meticulously covering the whole thing, trying to find the real cherry pieces to sell. But when you are done, you will be rewarded big time. Like, you imagine going back and going, here's 100 land claims, please buy them. And people would just be like snapping them up to buy them. So yeah, I think it would be quite a profitable ship. I think the other thing that would be an advantage for the Odyssey over the Carrick, now, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think there won't be as many of them in game. I think that's probably the other way to look at it.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly safe bet. Whether that's by game design or whether just the way that the Odyssey came into being and was introduced to us, yeah. I leave to you guys to decide. But yeah, absolutely.
I think from a purchasing, sorry, I was going to say from a purchasing perspective, literally, I just think more Carricks have been brought. You know, look at the way the skin. The easiest way to look at the current, best in show skin, that is a popularity contest for. I'm voting from the ship that I purchased. 9 times out of 10, that's how people vote, and so you can tell the Carrick is way up there in purchasing terms. So yeah. All right, next question. MPCDN asks, did you know that in your end of the world there is a plant that when pressed against it, the skin will make a temporary what? That is the most random thing I've ever heard. It says, did you know that in your end of world there is a plant when pressed against the skin will make a temporary tattoo? No, I did not know. That is very bizarre. Okay. The Canine Music asks question, do you think it is possible that CIG may be able to deliver useful NPC crew trying to figure out how much risk there is to building fleets that have ships that would require NPCs? So if you think about how they do it in most games, they can fake it. We've talked about this a few times. So the only thing NPCs have to do at the moment is basically man turrets, right? Any other objectives, so say it comes down to repairing an engine or a component or something like that, that can all be faked. So what they can do is we know that they're doing a rating system. So basically they can copy the rating system. And so say Badges is an engineer and he's a 4-star rated engineer and I'm a 3-star rated engineer because I'm not as good as Badges. What they can do is they can look at the times for all 3-star rated engineers, and they can basically go, well, that would take someone that's 3 stars between 3 to 4 minutes. They can then roll a random dice and go, it'll take 3 minutes and 45 seconds for a bot, or the bot at that particular bot for that particular component at that particular time, all can be random between those figures. And that's how and the bot just stands there and plays an animation, right? But it makes it feel like a level 3 character because it takes around about the same amount of time. So that's how they can fake that. That's just a suggestion. That's not how they're going to do it. That's just a way I know they could do it. And then obviously we have already seen them in turrets. They're quite good in turrets already. Sometimes when the turrets are on, they're actually too good. So again, they can figure out how many times a player actually gets hits as a 3-star rated turret operator or a 5-star turret operator, and they can copy that. And I think that's one of the reasons they're doing a player rating system, because it helps the players help determine how clever the AI is, or to fake how the AI is. I don't know, Badges, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it's definitely fair. When you think about how complicated the inside of ships are and all the different things we can expect them to do, because the community, if they give them an order to AI crew an order to repair stuff, if they don't then get to follow that AI crew around and watch it follow out the order, carry out the order it's just been given, people will whinge. So there's definitely that kind of fear that maybe the AI just doesn't get to that level, or that there are so many drawbacks to the AI that people don't bother using it. Yeah, I would be very, very careful around building any sort of fleet or any sort of kind of future aspiration around stuff that almost sounds too good to be true. Just be very careful you don't invest a lot in that way without them proving they can deliver it first.
I would plan to always make friends in game. I think that is an always safe bet. I think you are going to eventually meet people, no matter how type of social anxiety you are. It's always going to be better to be with people than it is with bots. Just, I think you're going to be able to fill the roles with bots, but let's be honest, humans always seem to be better than bots. That's just kind of how it works. All right, so I got sent this by, I forgot who it was that sent it to me. I do apologize. Mikhail sent it to me. Badges, I've just lost you on camera, so I've obviously got the wrong number turned on. I do, sorry about that. There you are, you're back. So they are the forum badges for this year. Now, I don't even know they were a thing. So yeah. I don't know, if they really do it for you over some of the other badges, good on you, but to me, they're not really worth it at this point. I just think a forum badge is a forum badge, and I don't really go on Spectrum very much, but it is nice to see them offering some extra stuff, but yeah. I don't know. They don't really do it for me. Do they do it for you, badges, at all, or not? Yeah.
I don't really use Spectrum. Every so often I go in and poke fun at people, and then run away again, like the pro level troll that I am. But other than that, yeah, meh. Yeah.
So I basically go in there and I set how long so I can get annoyed, and then I leave. It doesn't take very long. It's quite toxic in there. I really would like that they try some downvoting arrows to see if we can remove some of that toxicity, because just it'd be really great if we actually had a really good place to converse, but there just isn't that. And it's, yeah, Reddit used to be like that, and then they started letting people post memes on there, and it's just really gone to shit once they started posting memes. I almost think they need like a Star Citizen memes Reddit, and they push that off to the side. I think memes are funny and they do have their place, but you just can't have decent concourse when it's all mixed in amongst the actual conversation. But hey, I'm not running it, so it's not up to me. All right. Next question. Orion Maelstrom 82 says, has there been any mention of the possibility of work on the whole B now that they claim that the whole C is finished? Wow. Did you do that with voice chat? Because the way it's replied is it said whole C as in WHOLE, C is SEA. So it's like he's voiced written the message with his voice.
Nice.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I have to ask that, but yeah. Yeah, they're definitely on the cards at some point coming along. I would probably expect the B would be the next one before going on to the D and E. I think once the C goes in the game, I don't think the B will be too far behind it. But I agree with that. I think they're a little bit on the back burner though at the moment, because they've had other tasks like Pez and that fall into place. And obviously some of those ships like the Whole A and Whole B are probably not going to be in Squadron 42, so they're not huge. What do you call it? What's the word? Urgent. They're not urgent to get into the game. And again, even if they are, we're probably only going to see them from the exterior. We're not going to see them from interiors. So as long as they're flying in the background and they've got cargo on them, I think they're kind of done. So yeah. Anything else you want to add to that one?
No, I think that about covers it.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's right. For future CCU chain purposes, what price do you think the large construction ship will be? The one size below the Pioneer, and who should make it? Price wise,
good question. Do you think we're going to get a large?
I think we'll end up getting. I think we'll end up getting 4 of them. Yeah, I think we'll get a Pioneer. If the Argo MCV is to be believed, that's a starter one. So it kind of shows that there is a capital and a small. So you'd have to assume there's a medium and a large based on that. Yeah, as for manufacturer, who knows? You know, it really is the Wild West out there at the moment when it comes to that, with, you know, 2 manufacturers, one manufacturer taking 2 mining slots. We could get another, another Sunu one, or, You've got to look towards the industrial manufacturers. So you've got things like MISC and Argo's, obviously the MCV. So Consolidate Outland was another one you'd chuck in there. But again, it's a tough call. Could get a Drake one even. You know, it just really depends on what they feel like doing, what they feel is the best fit. And they might even chuck it back to a community vote and we get to decide. You don't really know. As for price point, the Pioneer is a very expensive ship at $850. I would probably expect a large one to be in the 500 range, 500 to 600 in that bracket. Would you?
Yeah, I think what I draw from the pricing of the Pioneer is that they're trying to keep these ships fairly rare. Because, of course, high pricing is one way you can achieve that, right? So I think they're looking to make that something that not everyone has kicking about. And I would expect there to be a vast kind of difference in terms of what sort of things can be placed by a Pioneer versus anything below it.
So just by that nature, would you expect the MCV to be the most expensive advanced starter we've seen? Currently, it's the Vulcan, I believe. No, don't quote me on this. I think it was $200 or $220. The Terrapin's like $220 or something like that. Is the most expensive currently.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it would certainly make sense. I mean, just from a math standpoint, you got 246 and then 800.
That's about right. Yeah.
So yeah, something in that region sounds a safe bet. But for CCU purposes, Jesus, because that's very specific, the CCU game.
Well, he's asking for a price point, and I think you kind of just hit the nail on the head there. 250, 450, 650, 850. That sounds like metrical spread out numbers to me. That makes a lot of sense. If I was to guess, it is just a guess though. And don't ever take what we say when we take a guess like that. That's plan around that with a wide berth. You know, and
this has big exclamation marks either side and going, this is just us spitballing ideas.
Yeah.
No guarantee, no money back.
If you have a chain all the way up to a Polaris too, and you've forked all the way along and you don't connect them and you just leave it laying there, that's brilliant, because then you can jump off not just to a construction ship, you can jump off to any ship that you want to jump off to. So just make sure you've got a chain sitting there all the way up to a Polaris or all the way up to an A2 or whatever it is to your $750 price point, and just leave it there. And you know, and when that ship comes along, you just fork off to it. There you go, easy done. All right, the Deetster asks, is the mini aim assist for fixed guns from back in the day still currently in game? Yeah, I think it is actually, isn't it? I remember using it the other day on the Corsair, I think it was. I've
been using it on the Saber, or until I got rid of the Saber.
Oh, what'd you turn that into out of curiosity? Because I know you were in love with that for a while. I honestly thought your camera had frozen there for a second. You just go... It just looked bizarre.
I'm genuinely... So...
Anyway,
I tell you what, I'm going to go and have a look at my fleet. I've reached peak Star Citizen. Yeah. I'm at that point where I can't even tell you, apart from a Perseus, what's in my fleet at this point. So stand by, I'll come at you on that.
You have to see now I'm having a good old laugh because I know Can fixed it all up for you, and he's just changed it all on you and stuffed it all around. That's what it is, isn't it?
I'm so sorry, Can. I love you. Yeah. I love you.
Mikkel asks...
Have you got any lift hold music while I'm doing...
No, it's fine. Mikkel asks, what is your favorite ship that isn't the Kraken? I think mine, it has to be the Reclaimer or the Polaris. I'll have those two up there. What would be yours besides the Kraken?
What would be mine besides the Kraken?
It'd be the Polaris.
There's probably a list of about 70.
Polaris, the Redeemer, yeah. Anything that doesn't start with P and end in Ursius. That would be it, right? Yeah.
So I think one of the surprise ones, I've got to back you up on this. I love the Reclaimer. I love the Nostromo feel of it, and I just, for one of their earliest ships, or one of their earlier ships, I can see me living on that with a crew, going and doing deep space salvage. I genuinely, I can kind of see that loop playing out.
Actually, you've made me think of that question we had earlier about the Odyssey. I actually think there is a fair bit of similarity between an Odyssey and a Reclaimer, that exploration type industrial. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Except instead of going to planets, you're exploring, wrecked ships, and you're going inside, and they've literally said that you might find alien zombies on there, or a bunch of people that need medical aid, or nothing. So there is an exploration element to that one as well. Maybe I need to look at the Odyssey more. I've just gone ahead. I've done it to myself. Anyway, but yeah, I'm kind of keen for that. Obviously, with salvage coming along, as I said, won't be until Munching comes in, so we'll see how that goes. But you, me, and Space did an episode, didn't we? That hasn't released yet. I held that one off, by the way. So that'll be coming out next. But we did, me, you, and Space did one. On the, what was it? Best Daily Drivers for 318. I had to really think about that one. It hurt. But yeah, that'll be coming out over the weekend. I think Monday US time. So yeah. So look forward to that one. I hope that answers your question, Mikhail. Kobe Bryant asked, what was the question? The question was a question about what was our favorite ship. Shinobi Troop asks, with the collection of Warbond CCUs, is there a Goldilocks zone of ship pricing to pay full price for leftover store credit? I don't get that question. Do you get what he means by that, Badges?
Read that again for me.
It's just the way he's worded it. It confuses me. With the collection of Warbond CCUs, is there a Goldilocks zone of ship pricing to pay for full price with leftover store credit? I don't get that question. Maybe it's just the way he's worded it. Shinobi, maybe ask in chat, and someone in chat can poke and pot us to the correct, because I don't quite understand what you mean. Like, is there a really good ship to aim for? Is that what you're asking for?
That's probably a perfectly reasonable question, but he's just woken up and I've just finished a day at work, so my brain is fucking mush.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna think about that one.
Reach out to me, Shinobi, if you don't get it answered, and we'll answer it in private on Discord. That is totally fine. Hellhawk asks, do you think the Liberator will get held back until 4.0? I think that's a reasonable thing to ask. I think it probably could get held back to Pyro. What do you think? It tells me that it's designed for distance, and we just don't really have the distance at the moment. I think it can go further than that. I think it could go beyond Pyro, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think I kind of think the Liberator will be a Pyro ship, whether that's 4.0 or whether that's 4.x. Is here or there. But yeah, I guess the other way I'd answer that, Hellhawk, is I would say I haven't seen anything that makes me think it's coming before Pyro. Which is a different way of answering that, I guess. Yeah. But yeah.
Liberator's in a weird spot for me because it does vehicles and ships, where in a weird turn of phrase, the Kraken is just ships, and the Idris can do a couple of ships, or it could do vehicles. I think you and I did was it 23, I think you and I worked out could be taken out in the Idris. You could have 23 Tonks in the Idris and have it land. Not saying that that's exactly what it's going to fit, but like if you wanted a land transporter, the Idris is it, in my book. But yeah. All right. Do you think the Kraken ship pads will increase in size? The currently small pads can only accommodate snub ships. That's not correct, Hamburg. They're extra small, not extra small. That's the difference. So, and then they do have two technical medium pads or size 3s, so they can still have like 2 cutlasses on them. You are typing very loud.
Oh, am I? Sorry.
Yeah, really loud. That's fine. It's like I caught you with your pants down. The way your eyes went. Anyway. Yeah, so, yeah, extra small, not extra small. And that's why people get confused, because they have a different terminology that they seem to switch around and use depending on who they're talking to. So, yeah. But they're basically fighter-sized pads. You'll be fine. Basically, the pads on the far side are the same ones that the internals of the you just have. Your typing, sir, is so loud.
I thought I'd muted it. I'm really sorry.
It's like drilling for oil. Clack, 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 clack. Anyway, it's fine. Yeah. What do you guys want for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas, Badges? He wants a new silent keyboard.
All I want for Christmas is you, mate.
Okay, well, you pay the ticket and I'll come over. Yeah.
Fuck that.
I don't know. I've been talking to my mum, honestly. We have actually been flirting with the idea of going to CitizenCon next year. And she's very good at travel, and she was telling me like how much it would cost and things like that. So I am considering saving my pennies and thinking about going. I don't know. What about you, Badges? Would you like to go to CitizenCon next year?
I would love to go to CitizenCon for a whole bunch of reasons, not least of all, obviously, CitizenCon. But I really enjoy travel. It's something I did an awful lot in the Navy. I feel like I'm missing out on that a lot now. So yeah, I would love to. And I am going to do my best to get myself there. Which isn't a promise, but I am going to give it a go.
Yeah. So
which probably means overtime.
It's different for all of us too, because like Algrid's probably the best financially of the three of us, and then I'm the worst, and you're somewhere in the middle. But I don't know. I would definitely need help to get there. Put it that way. I don't know. It's something we'll have to have a think about in the new year. We've got all year to do it.
Yeah.
But we'd obviously have to get the tickets for CitizenCon, and then the flights. Mum's going to help us out with accommodation. She's really good at getting that stuff sorted. So we've kind of got our own personal travel agent in my mum, believe it or not. So she'll help us with a lot of stuff. She's really well traveled. She goes on 2 or 3 trips a year. She is a madman when it comes to travel. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have a talk about that in the background. But as for Christmas, yeah, just don't want to be bored. I get really bored this time of year. I don't know how many of you people are single, but for some reason they don't put anything good on television or movies at this time of year. They just assume everyone's out with their family, typing really loudly, and distracting the shit out of everyone. No, just kidding. But yeah, I just do give a thought to some friends that are single, and reach out and make sure they're okay. I will just say this as a community service announcement: it is the most, and I hate to say this, the most suicidal time of year. Christmas and New Year's. It really triggers a lot of people. So if you know someone that's out there and they're alone, reach out, make sure they're okay. Better yet, see if you can pull them into your fam, because they might not say anything, but I guarantee you they'll appreciate it. So you just as a community thing, yeah, keep that under your belt, because there are a lot of people that won't be here. And I know I'm being very sad when I say that, but it's just a completely factual thing. Badges, I think you would be able to talk a little bit to that with the military stuff too. I do know it does what they call it, unproportionally affect military and veteran personnel more than the average person. Suicide's a real thing, yeah.
Yeah. It's let's call it I was going to call it a perk of the job. No. Not what I meant. But yes,
it's good that we can laugh at this very sad subject that I've tossed us all into. But I do think it's something worth bringing up, and bringing to people's attention. So that's why I'm doing it. But yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah. So just if you want to give a gift to someone this year, just make sure they're okay. They don't need money or anything like that. Make sure they're mentally fine. So yeah. Next question. Do you think, Dan Little asks, do you think we might see a carrier version of the Hull-E with larger pads or docking collars? It might work like a Star carrier from the Expeditionary Force by Craig Allenson. Star carrier from Expeditionary Force. I'm going to Google that and see if I can get anything, because I have no idea what you're talking about, sir, but I will have a quick look. Images. Expeditionary Force by Craig Allenson wiki. Okay, let's have a quick look at this while we're here. We'll have to turn this camera back on for Badges. There he is. So this is called the Flying Dutchman. I think this is what he's talking about. And I can see, well, in this photo here, I can see engines off the hull, can't you?
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I could see that as a thing. If that's the manufacturer they want to go with. Absolutely. Oh, speaking of cool spaceships, I went and saw Avatar yesterday. The way of water. Highly recommend it. Best film of the year, bar none. Not the best film I've ever
Awesome.
seen, but a very good film. And if I was to say what the film, someone asked me what the film was about, I would say it's about family. I think that kind of sums it up really nicely. It does feel like like the other film felt very planetary wide, like this big epic combat. This thing feels like the neighborhood Spider-Man version of that, where it's a smaller, more, there's a fight, but it's a smaller condensed fight. It's not this big army versus army thing. It's more of like a community is being invaded and they're trying to push them out. I think that I won't say any more than that because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a very good film nonetheless. But I think it definitely sets up the two films after this, and they'll go back to being like the first one in the coming films. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I don't think I've spoiled too. Have I spoiled anything? Don't think I have. But yeah. As to answer your question, yeah, I think the carrier that kind of sits between the Liberator and the Kraken, you'd assume it's got to be more medium focused, yeah? Or maybe even the other way might be to go as more ground vehicle focused. What do you think, Badges, if you had to have a stab in the dark at that one?
I mean, all their stuff for carriers seems to be massive. I mean, apart from the Liberator, which is not a carrier.
It's weird.
He's just staring intently at the camera.
Well, it's weird. Isn't it?
I mean, the Pegasus is only slightly the old Pegasus is only slightly shorter than the Bengal.
Yeah,
and it's much smaller, but it's I think it was 920 meters, which is still redonky big. And there doesn't seem to be the things that we have in the middle, the Kraken and stuff like that. Again, is Kraken and I guess the Idris, call it a mini carrier because it's got the three spots in the center of it. That I suppose you could describe as a carrier as well. Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of want to see where they're going on it next, but I think it seems to be the proper combat carriers are the ones designed to be used more directly in combat seem to be able to seal their ships away inside. And we see that with the Kraken not being able to extend its shields over anything on the pads. So, yeah, more stuff that can carry things inside, please. Excuse me.
Yep. The other thing that we could also put in there as well, they did talk about the whole series being able to pack up ships in boxes and carry them in boxes. So, I guess technically, to answer your question, you did specifically mention the whole E as well, Dan. So, yeah, I guess you could just pack them up in boxes and transport them that way. Let's be honest, that's probably how they want you to transport them, because then you can't just pop them out and use them at a moment's notice, So if you want to take an entire fleet, you pack them all up and you carry them in boxes on a whole D. All right. Next question, Zandisco. What do you guys want for? No, he already asked that. Damn it! These people doubly asking questions. All right. Monster Avery, how you doing, mate? Only question is, with shields, ball penetration changes. Do you think that indicates them gathering info specs to start the implementation of armor on ships? I have mentioned armor recently, though, haven't they?
I mean, I'm hoping they're going towards armor, but I don't think the shield balance is part of that. I think this is them belatedly making up. This isn't possibly an easier way of making up for low ammo counts on ballistics.
Yeah.
Rather than having to look at every weapon individually in the ship that it's attached to and the ammo that you would give it. I think this is just that you just change the equation for how many bullets get through a shield.
Yeah, I'm assuming
easy peasy.
Eventually you'll have ammo, ballistic ammo will be a part of your cargo count. That's kind of the balance of it. Oh, well, if we've got a really high cargo count, we don't want a really high massive cargo that we're carrying. We'll just take lasers, But that means most cargo ships will have lasers, but then like a military one, a lot of its cargo hold will be the ballistic ammo, so it can really pack a punch. And I do think that'll be a part of the balance. And as we keep saying, player choice. You know, so you could have a cargo ship that is armed to the teeth with ballistics, and people think it's a cargo ship, but really it's kind of a combat ship because you've, you know, changed up that meta a little bit. So yeah. Oh, hey Starlet, hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Yeah, but other than that, yeah, I eventually they've talked. You know, we've talked about it heaps of times, like having ballistics, and you've got someone in the ship running around carrying a cargo crate. His whole job is just delivering box after box after box of ammo to people. So I think that'd be kind of cool. So yeah. All right, next question is from Dax again. Do you think 2 players will be able to salvage with the Reclaimer in 3.18, or we will need more players to run it? I think you'll be able to use any number of people of any ship. It's just how safe and how long it will take, right? And I always look at something like the Mole. How many solo players did you see out go in the Mole? And they were able to do it. It just took them a little longer than others. So I think it'll be the same in any ship. It's just that, like, do you want to be caught with your pants down in a Reclaimer when you're both at the back of the ship and you start getting under attack and someone's got to run all the way up to the front to get it going again? You know, that's kind of where I...
Yep. There's nothing worse than waiting for a lift when you're under attack.
Yep. That's it, 100%. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think hull scraping generally for the Reclaimer is going to be one of the minor tasks it's doing when it's out there.
Yep.
So I think it's going to hold that ability for one of them will just be like, look, while we're not doing this sort of stuff, let's do the, you know, just scrape the hull of it before we chew it. Off it does it, and, you know,
I said
that sort of stuff. But,
slightly different. That's a task that the ship is doing while there are other people inside the ship getting the components out. So while you're stripping it, there's someone else in there going, yeah, don't look at me like that.
no, not you. Mornstar, Macho. It's amazing how quickly you can go off people in chat.
What did he say?
Mornstar, the Liberator is a carrier. It even says it's a light carrier. Mako, all right. The Liberator is the best carrier. So
why? Let's talk about this then. Why do you not see it as a carrier, even though CIG lists as a carrier? What? So just in short.
Carriers are designed for sustained flight operation. The Liberator is not set up for sustained flight operation.
So it just doesn't have the cargo to match or whatever.
Doesn't have the cargo to match, doesn't have the crew facilities, doesn't have the ability to sustain multiple aircraft, doesn't have a safe space to rearm them. Ask the Japanese at Midway why you want a safe place to rearm your ships rearm your aircraft.
What I'm hearing is that CIG...
If I've got to throw something at you...
No, I'm just hearing is that CIG has a different definition of carrier to what you have. Like, so yours is based on real world. They've just called it carrier, but it doesn't meet the real world definition. Is that another way of looking at
it? It would be the wrong way of looking at it. It's not a carrier.
I'm not
It's not a carrier.
Not trying to argue
CIG,
with you.
Are you listening? CIG, if there's someone in the chat, I'm coming for you. The Liberator is not a character.
Not a character.
Carrier,
yeah, it's not a character. Confirmed, it's not a character. Right, good to know. Right, I've always wondered why you didn't see it as a carrier. So it's just the definition at the end of the day. Yeah, that's fine. I think the definition. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. Back to the questions. Is there a camera in the bottom left? Yes, there is, but only when we have 4 people. I can prove that because I can go... Wait, we can even bring this up because it's Christmas. I haven't done this one in a while. This will probably bug out. Haven't used that in about 4 years.
Right. I'm not doing anything else till we get snow.
All right. I can do that. Hang on. 2 people and... paste. There we go.
I'm going to make you break. Yay! Woo! Fantastic. I like that.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm happy now. That's like set me up for Christmas.
Yeah, it's good. I only ever use it on this holiday live stream, believe it or not. But we only get it once a year, so yeah. But yeah.
Awesome.
And I set this up years ago, and people are like, "How did you do that?" I've had people ask me. It's literally just I think it's a black and white video image, and I've just got the black center transparent. That's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty easy. So yeah. Oh, when you know how, obviously.
Your graphics cards in the background going, "This is decidedly not awesome."
Yeah, that's basically it. So yeah.
Because it's removing the color from that to show us. Then it's dealing with like your background being superimposed on that, and then
that's it. That's all it is.
Oh wow!
And then it just I use a thing in Thingo to get rid of the black. That's it.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
that's cool.
So this worked on my. I just saw that come up on stream. It actually looks kind of creepy. But yeah. Used it on my old computer, so it obviously didn't have it's not that intensive. So yeah. So anyway. All right, now I've got to copy that onto 3 different screens though for when SA comes along. But yeah. All right, I think Space just sent me a message. What did he say? No, sorry, no sooner today. Oh, it's his birthday today. If you see Space Tomato, reach out to him and tell him happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Space.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
And Mikhail, I will talk to you about that later. But yes, definitely, mate. I'm getting questions about Citizen Code. So yeah.
Okie dokie. So while you're doing that,
yep.
Joe Vidichild says re-Endeavor pricing. I suspect the most expensive combo of mods will be below 1K, with the base price subtracting the mods.
Isn't the master set already over 1K? So your logic doesn't compute.
Not sure.
No, it is because when they upgraded it to have a second biopod, it put over $1,000, and they've already included LTI. I know I'm right.
Jesus.
So
that's like 3 times the cost of the ship,
and that's why we don't recommend the master set, because it's like
holy moly.
You're better off just to get the one and earn them in game. You know, and the way we know things are going to multiply in value, you don't want to get something like, you know, you're paying a lot to get those modules, and let's be honest, you can basically outfit 4 endeavors for a full set, right? So you either want to get a master set and 3 other endeavors, or maybe just earn them in game, which is the better way to go. And quite honestly, are you going to want every combination of endeavor? I don't think so. I really don't. I think, like, if you're leaning towards medical, you're more likely to go the hospital route. You know, if you're a farmer, you know what I'm talking about. You're not going to want every version of the endeavor at exactly the same time. I could probably see a reason to have 2 endeavors, but beyond that, I think you start to struggle because you start thinking you're in an org, there are other people that'll have them, etc., etc. I just don't see a real need beyond 1. I could stretch it to 2, but probably not more than that. So yeah, hope that answers your question. Yes, we're up to Monster Avery, yeah. Do you think the Pioneer says Carrick would be better than a Kraken Idris? I watched the video and I kind of feel the same thing about how much often it would be used.
I assume what you're saying here is
I think
using them as a mobile base.
Yeah, I think that's what he's trying to say. Like, are you better off to get a Kraken and a Pioneer rather than get a Kraken or an Idris separately? I think they're very different use cases, mate. Because you've got the Explorer and a construction ship. So I actually had someone in one of the Fix My Fleet argue this. He was like, no, it's just going to be cheaper to build a new base every single time. Are you serious? Building an actual base versus a mobile base. The cost of building a new base will be astronomical.
Yeah.
In comparison.
And look, I if you're combat focused, or you're going to be part of an org that is likely to be engaged in combat ops, mobility is key. Your ability to not be the best way to win a fight, as the non-combat side of a fight, is to not be there when it happens.
Yeah. Right?
Is just to be out of that fight. And being able to do that with, you know, it might be that you're trying to attract a fight, and, you know, in which case the Pioneer and whatever else you can put down is perfect for it because it's fixed. But I think you run the same risk that every game has, which is, you know, we've got to remember Star Citizen is going to be a 24/7 game. Actually, you know, you might log out and people come for you at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Actually, I just kind of thought of the happy middle ground. a Kraken or an Idris, but then you have, say, a smaller construction ship like an MCV or something like that that just places turrets around. That would be the happy medium, because then you're a bit in the middle. Because the other way to look at it with a Pioneer, it's like renting versus buying. Is it cheaper to buy a house every time I go between? So say I just move every 6 months. Every time I move, is it better to buy and then sell a new house, buy and sell a new house, or is it better just to rent everywhere I go? And I'll leave that up to you. But in the case of, say, something like a Kraken, where you're just, if you can just land and put, say, 6 turrets down around the outside to increase your defenses, and then you can pick them back up with the same ship, it's going to be far less time to quickly construct a few turrets than construct an entire base, yes? And then if you kind of add to that and go, it allows you to park in space, you could use the Nautilus to drop sentry turrets and mines. So yeah, there are ways around it.
Yeah. The key things for this is going to be is detection, and I think that's, with a game as vast as what we're having built, this is the key thing. Because people go, on the one side, it's easy for me to go, well, mobility because you can't find the base. Okay, I'm going to park a Carrick somewhere on one of the moons of Crusader. Come find me.
Holston Coop in chat says the Kraken should be able to fly an Atmo. It can. It's got landing gear. That's literally why it's a mobile base. I think it is really designed as a pirate base. That is what that thing is designed to do. And it's designed to hide in all and every single place you can possibly do. Obviously, it could be assisted by an SRV to get back into Atmo. And obviously, different gravities will be different on different ships. So there'll be certain planets you wouldn't want to take a Kraken down to because it'll be just so much harder to get it out of. But again, you could literally go into, say, somewhere like Crusader, and you could hide on the other side of Crusader and nobody knows you're there because you're inside the pea soup and they can't see you. There's nothing to say you can't just hide in a gas giant. So yeah, and in the known universe, just so a lot of people don't know, a lot of people probably don't know this, but 75% of the planets in the universe, as we know it, are gas giants. So yeah, sorry, just you were going to say.
Yeah, that's right. It just, like, when they get a lot closer to the whole scanning kind of radar gameplay that they're trying to implement, being able to hide in areas that have, a lot of kind of magnetic feedback and all that sort of stuff will be quite good fun, because, you'll be able to go in somewhere, shut down to minimal running. Maybe the risk is you shut your shields down, but then you just sit in the debris. So unless they come in close and spot you, that sort of stuff, that would be quite good. Fun to. Negativity says, Galaxy will be the mid-tier base ship. Thank you very much for the super chat, my dude. Galaxy will be the mid-tier base builder. Get the base Galaxy with no mods. I have Nautilus, Idris, and Pioneer for this whole reason. Jealous on the fleet, dude. That's really cool.
He's not wrong, actually. I totally forgot about that. So that would mean, to be believed, we technically know about the small, large, and the capital. We're now just missing a medium. But what if the MCV is the medium and there is no small? So that's the other way to look at it too. So yeah, I'm
going to go with, I think base building is likely to have a dedicated large, because I think it's just one of those things.
It'd be really interesting. It'd be really interesting if that's how they land on it. So the RSI is this jack of all trades, but then we actually get a large hospital and a large refinery, and it just turns out that that's a jack of all trades one. It just flies around the universe, pooping modules out everywhere. Just like, get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of this. Well, actually, in a weird turn of phrase, if you look at the Caterpillar, if that ended up having medical modules, now knowing the Apollo's a thing, I could see that. So there's a ship that's a jack of all trades that allows you to taste a little bit of everything. If you're not sure what you want to do, you go into the jack of all trades, try it out, and it's like, okay, I really like what this Caterpillar does, and I do really like the medical, so now I'm going to go off into the Apollo. That makes a lot of sense to me. For those of us that are undecided on what we're going to do, it's just like, well, get the ship does a little bit of everything. Yeah. Try that and then move off. And it's interesting because some of the stuff in chat around base building and stuff like that, because we've got manufacturing is roughly equal to base building. That's from Michael Krakenov. Well, Citizen Cheese says, I'm after more of a farming hut than a base. So what he's saying, sorry, what Mikhail's
Yeah.
saying is they used to be called base building. They're now called manufacturing. So the Pioneer used to be this base builder ship, and then we heard later on that they turned them into more of a building ship. They turned manufacturing, like a factory ship. And it's the same thing with the MCV. They might have just changed the terminology unless there's a slip up there. But yeah, at the moment, they're not just building bases, they're building lots of different things.
I'm going to go out on a limb, once again, with no evidence whatsoever to support this other than my own gut feeling, and say that base building is to manufacturing what hull scraping is to salvage. That hull scraping is salvage, not all salvage is hull scraping. And I think, base building is manufacturing, but I doubt all manufacturing will be base building. I know they don't, before anyone jumps on me in chat, stop. I know we're not going to be building guns. I know we're not going to be building missiles. I know it's going to be very unlikely that we're even going to be crafting our own ammunition. Get all that. But, they made, at the end of CitizenCon, they spoke about things like coolant and stuff for your life support. Yeah. I could absolutely see us be able to make that, which massively expands the range of your fleet if you've got something that can make that stuff.
To say that the MCV, which is being the smaller construction ship, was building a turret, I would assume that some of the ingredients would be the said guns. Yeah,
absolutely.
You'd have to get that brought in or have it in your cargo hold somewhere. You'd already have the pre-established guns, and they're just connected onto it as you install it.
Exactly that. Being able to turn things into coolant for systems, refrigerant gas, oxygen, all that sort of stuff, being able to, take synthetic stuff and just turn it into food. So like Matrix's idea of nutrient paste, you literally just take stuff that by itself would last forever. No use by date, no deterioration, no, oh God, I've got to cook a bunch of food because otherwise this is all going to become useless trash. So, you just mix it up and it just extends the range of your fleet. So it's not anything that's going to be like buttholes, fruits, post.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I love the ideas that are coming up. Sorry, go on.
All right. So Scott says, what else are you going to manufacture? Well, we talked about this a fair bit. What about, making clothing? What about making food? What about making, the walls for a base? What about making the little modules like that are on a farm? So when you actually go to a base, it can actually make all the different types of things. And if you think about it from a base building perspective or a manufacturing perspective, what you'd be rep grinding is recipes. So you get in well with a refining place and they're like, oh, you're pretty good. All right, so we're going to give you the ability to make small refining modules. And as you work your way up, it was like, all right, now we're going to give you the ability to make capital size refining modules. You know what I mean? Like that. So I could see how that could work. So it allows you as a manufacturing ship to get rep with every single different type of profession. And you could be the refining building guy. Then there's another builder guy that's the mining building guy. And then there's another, you'd see very quickly how it becomes a very broad profession, because all of a sudden it does, you might have a pioneer, but you need to have so much rep that you can't build everything. Then instantly, as you were talking about making the ship rarer, that makes the ship rarer. Because you don't, like, it doesn't matter how good you are, you have to keep those reputations maintained. You might be able to do 2 or 3, but there is no way you're going to be able to keep every single profession maintained. You probably could, but you can only build the small ones, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Or you might only be able to build the capital ones, or whatever it is. You won't be able to build all of everything because it's just too much to maintain. Right, so in an org, you're probably going to have 4 or 5 builder guys, and they're all going to have a different profession they have to maintain.
Yeah, and manufacturing. Yeah, I think it's an interesting loop that we haven't gone into, but I think there's stuff with repair there that they can muck around with, which would also take a feed from science as well. Yeah. Science. I think part of science might have an input into a lot of different areas. Piracy.
You on camera yet, SA?
Not yet. No, working on it.
Let me when you're at camera one. Let me know when you're up. Sorry. Where are we up to? Next question.
Did you?
Sorry, I say.
Oh no, I was going to say. You sent me the camera link, correct?
Yeah, I did.
Excellent. Thank you.
I did because I know how slack you are. That's fine.
Yeah,
I am incredibly slack. You are correct.
Yeah, Scott. I think it's not where we draw the line on those particular items. CIG have done that. CIG have told us that we're not going to be manufacturing weapons. We're not going to be manufacturing armor, missiles, components. That's not our remit. That's the NPC corporations doing that.
To add to that, and this is not to disagree with Badgers, but there's nothing to say that they can't change their mind on that and expand the scope of the game down the line too. If they want to make the game bigger, that's one way to do it. You know, they can go into player manufacturing, but I think in this, without scope creeps, I think that's a really good way to put a cap on the size of the game. And they've also talked about making really annoying noises. They've talked about manufacturing hubs that can be player controlled.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd get discount, you'd be able to sell the profit from those things that are sold from that location.
Yeah.
Refining hubs is one they mentioned. Weapon manufacturers is another one they've mentioned. Player controlled manufacturing hubs, essentially. Because it makes it so there's a place that players can fight over for a reason to control things. And I think that's very valid. And the bigger orgs are going to want to fight over things like that. SA, you're making so much noise.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I was going to say, I think you missed a couple of things in the room as you were dragging your mic over the top of them all.
Yeah, those dead bodies, man. Get them out of the way. Are you on camera yet, or what?
Yeah, I'm on camera.
I've just got images of you,
tiny
like Bam Bam in the what do you call it? In the Flintstones, with your mic just like bam 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 bam.
Babyface.
Whatever I can do to annoy both of you, I'll do it.
You've shaved. you look it's like a growth prospect. It goes from SA to Badgers and then to me, like progressively hairier. Yeah,
I mean, and that's worrying because I am a traditional purveyor of shit beards, so I don't know where that leaves you, mate. But
you're going very French. You've got the
again, not through choice. Just it's not a choice. It's a lack of options.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
there's only so much facial hair to go around, and he can only afford little bits, so he has to craft glue it on as it goes on.
I'm just trying to hide the extra chins, and it's doing cool. It's just not.
Can we get toupees for beards? Maybe that's a thing. We'll start a company for you.
This is my Christmas prep. It's like Jim, don't shave. Yeah. Jim, don't shave. Hello.
We'll call them teards. You know, like toupees for beards. Teards. Anyway. Does CIG do a quarterly or yearly revisit on loaners for the concept ships? Actually, they redo loaners every time they release ships. So as soon as the Corsair was out, they were talking about loaners for it. So you can actually go in there right now, and for the RSO Galaxy, the loaner is a Carrick. And I'll bring it up real quick. This is going to go to shit.
Because they've literally just changed the Retaliator base. So the Retaliator base is now just a Gladiator, where it used to be the Retaliator Bomber and the Gladiator.
So what you're looking for is Star Citizen, Ship, Loaner, Matrix is what they call it. And if you search that in Google, you'll get this page here, top one, and then you go down here and it's got the ship that you have on the left and what the loaner is on the right. And it's still showing the Corsair here as the Buccaneer is the loaner. So what that'll mean is this is the loaner for Arena Commander. I had to remember the name of that. So yeah, if you come down here, what was the one I was talking about? What was the new one? Galaxy. Yeah, so if I Galaxy... There you go. And they've got a Carrick as loaner. I think that is a really overkill. I think the Caterpillar should have been the loaner for the Galaxy, personally, but what do you think? Oof.
Yeah, I think they kind of knew how popular it was going to be and, just put the other popular ship in with it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
To try and prop up the sales of it, probably, What about USA? Oh, I've made you go a little bit invisible.
As far as the loaner?
Yeah. Do you think it's a good loaner choice, or do you think they should have gone with something else?
I mean, I agree with you. I think the modularity aspect of it, the Caterpillar is probably a better fit, and it's size wise and cargo wise, it makes more sense. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, but that's classic CIG, right? Like, I don't think they've ever gotten the loaner matrix 100%, dead on. Like, there's always been ships that just don't make sense.
That's it.
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to see. Should I make him rude to you, or should I make him rude to me? I just haven't decided. Just put like this. Yes, he's
There you go.
there. Like
Hold
that.
on, wait, where is it?
Yeah, there.
Where-
Yeah. Anyway.
Just find out who's on top and do the whole.
Oh, I can go back to this one. Wait, wrong one. There we go. All right.
Okay.
So, next question. This is from the Red Huntress on Twitch. How would you apply all the various dropships we have to various combat scenarios? Actually, funny you mention that, because we all sat down and did an episode on dropships, didn't we? And the kind of conclusion was that I'll let you guys talk about this. So, SA and Badges, like there was no perfect dropship, but they were all very perfect at what they did. So yeah, I'll let you guys talk about this.
I've got to laugh because that is quite possibly the best use of the word giggle snorts that I've ever seen just after the Cutlass Steel.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I refuse point blank to talk about the Cutlass Steel. It's a pile of ass.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, we came up with, I think we were fairly confident that there were use cases for each one.
I think that just to add,
and they're missing dropships too. We're missing a couple of different roles.
When we did this, the Cutlass Steel wasn't a thing. So it's been over a year ago since we did this.
I mean, it still isn't a thing. It's a piece of garbage. So, I mean, we don't need to redo anything. That thing is it's a joke, and it's an insult to Cutlass owners that don't own a steel.
Yep.
It's sad, but it's true.
Yeah, it should have just been a thing that you could put seats in the back of the Cutlass Black. I'm not a big fan of how they've done a lot of the variants, to be honest with you. Especially if you know how they're made. Once you know how, because in real life they wouldn't do that. They would if they sold them as variants, people would complain. Like if they literally made them bespoke, what people would do was they would buy the base variant and modify their own. That's how they would do it. Which is
that's one of my big complaints about CIG and the way that they come out with these exclusive variants like the steel. Like, that shouldn't be a thing, in my opinion, like where you're basically creating a ship that you can't recreate in the verse as an owner. Like, that should be a given that you can modify and make your ship customized the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
And they said that for years too, because I actually own a Cutlass Blue. And I remember when the Blue came out, someone had asked in the Q&A, can you remove the cells? And they said, yeah, you could remove the cells and change them out.
So yeah, I think the other thing I'll add to that, though, the really insult originally was the price, because realistically, you kind of expect the steel should have been around about what the red is, or probably even below the red, or somewhere between the red and blue, right? That was where we all talked. We all said it would kind of be among the others. And then when it came out and it was like so much more expensive, it was just like, why? And then the only thing for it was the components. And
the turret, that was the other big insult too, because as a Blue owner, you're supposed to be the interdiction / bounty hunting ship, and your turrets are smaller than a poorly designed dropship. It just doesn't make sense. I could have seen it if they would have said, you know what, we're going to make all of the Cutlasses have size 3 guns on the turret, but you only have 2s equipped. So we're not going to give you free size 3s, but you can upgrade them. And I understand that each individual ship needs to be slightly different, but that was purely done to sell the ship. I couldn't imagine them doing it for any other reason.
Yeah, and it's easily the worst ship they've ever produced. Monetary wise, at the time the Corsair was cheaper because it was on concept, but now it's $15 and you can get to a Corsair. And when you wind it up like that, the other way to look at it is you could also get 2 Cutlass Blacks and it was still cheaper. You could get a Cutlass Black and a Dragonfly for the price of it. It was ridiculous. It's the worst thing they've ever done. And I think it shows just how out of touch the marketing department was at the time. I don't know how they are now, but I I haven't heard the best things, so we'll see.
I mean, design-wise, I think they really missed an opportunity with the steel, which was for lack of a better term in the real world, I would say there are cargo grid seating systems that lock into the base of planes. So C-130s, etc., C-5s, C-7s, whatever it's going to be. They could have easily introduced like a cargo module seating piece that would lock into the deck plating of a Cutlass, but also a Hercules or anything else that would potentially be able to carry it. And that would have given every ship a certain amount of diversity and ability to customize it. But to make it this bespoke, what is it? It's like 14 or something like that. It's a ridiculous number of seats in there. 26.
I believe it's 28 total, including the pilots.
Yeah. Just ridiculous.
Which is, at the time, also was more than half the server.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, everyone's gone to jail. Anyway, yeah, it's just a ship that I could bitch about eternally, but yeah, I think we'll move on. At the end of the day, I do think the marketing team does need to possibly tread the water a little bit more with the price of their ships. Either content creators maybe do a survey. I don't know, but you know, test the water a little bit might be a way to go. So, yeah. Stylet said hi to you real quick as well, by the way. So,
hey, Stylet.
Yeah.
So just quickly, and I'm sure the boys will correct me if I'm wrong, but in general, just to answer the question, Red Huntress, Valkyrie lands a significant self-contained element on a planet in a hostile zone. The Prowler is going to be useful for either sneaking or getting up close to other ships and landing a boarding element there. The Redeemer, yeah, absolutely. That's going to be putting in a very small, very specific surgical strike squad and then giving it its own close air support through the Redeemer. The Hoplite does something very similar. Obviously, the size difference there is key between the two of those. And yeah, the Cutlass still we've kind of done to death. Pile of pants.
I mean, what I would add is that the Hoplite, I see that in the long term. So first of all, the turrets for the Redeemer are far superior to, and I don't mean just size-wise, location. So the Redeemer is the ideal close air support platform for a small fire team, because you're talking about a total of a crew of 4 and then dropping off a small fire team or a small ops team to do lasing, sighting, everything you're going to do. The Hoplite, for a long time, after the Redeemer were finally released, I could not think of a valid way to use it, but looking at its aerodynamics and its model now, I could easily see it being a high altitude, low opening, a Halo craft. So the high altitude insertion, team jumps. I'm hoping CIG eventually puts in some type of, not necessarily a parachute mechanic, but maybe like a retrojet backpack or something to insert.
They have alluded to that as well, haven't they? Doing something like that.
In the animated movie, Final Fantasy Spirits Within, which is pants, apart from one bit. Right at the beginning, the guys come down in this heavy armor and you're like, oh, you're going to die. And they fire this ball of gel at the floor, land in it, and then just kind of like go upright. And after a couple of seconds, the gel deteriorates around them. Oh, give me that. Because it's just like, you can just imagine people leaving it to the absolute last second to fire this below them and then land in it. That would be so cool.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing in real world for high altitude, low opening. It's you're looking at a certain ceiling that you want to be able to pass to avoid detection, both visual and potentially observation. So, yeah, I mean, CIG's got quite a few options. I'm really hoping we see a Titan suit with retro thrusters, so you could do a hot landing. Although I know they have nails in lore to insert soldiers, and I don't believe they insert Titan suits.
All right, I'm gonna play it without sound, but I did actually find a scene. Hang on, give me a second. I'm gonna do it without sound just because of copyright reasons, but
because this thing looks like a Prowler as well. Or the Prowler looks like this thing more to be more accurate.
I've lost it.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, you guys are next to each other again.
Almost got to hang off. God damn.
There you go.
Right.
All right, here we go. So just real quick at the start here we go. I'll play it for a second. So yeah, they're shooting things at the ground.
That is the so yeah. It's a fun concept, but that is so stupid. With the velocity that you have hitting anything, like it's not going to slow you down gradually. It's a sudden. It's going to be a sudden stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like hitting water above a certain point. It's no different to hitting concrete. It's just No, but, I love that image though of just that kind of coming down. But also, I'm not being funny. Like the marksmanship standards for just general troops, not always the highest. Someone's gonna fucking miss falling and just go, oh shit.
Yeah,
but they are pretty wide. They're pretty big puddles. They're not small. It's like landing in a swimming pool.
If you shot that at even let's say 500, let's say 100 meters, that is a very small thing. When you're that high up. So if you're just slightly off, you are going to go thump. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's an animated movie and Final Fantasy, lore thing. That's fine. But like, hopefully what we'll get is some type of retro thruster backpack piece. That's a one-time. It can even be a one-time use thing, right? It just it burns off all of its fuel, and then you just drop it to the ground. It's useless.
I'd like to see it kind of like deploy up behind you, and it's like a 4 rocket thruster thing. That just slows you, and then it drops you, and then it just like shoots off, and then kind of conks itself out and randomly spirals out and just crashes somewhere in the distance.
Hits the plane,
the Mars lander, how it did it, like it was the space lift or whatever they called it, like that. So, but it's that for a player, and it just softly, gently drops the player and then flies off.
So there are a couple things design-wise that they still have not perfected on these, quote-unquote drop ships. So there's difference between a jump seat and a drop seat. A drop seat doesn't exist in real life, but it's something that can actually, it's like a roller coaster seat. It keeps you in so that you're not getting jostled around. And I can tell you from being in these planes and helicopters that you do get bumped around quite a bit when you only have a lap belt or a harness. Even that, your legs are going up and down, your arms are going up and down. And you're probably going to have like a gear actually in your lap. You're going to have a weapon and your gear in your lap. So two of the things that they're missing from, and a jump seat is the simpler version, right? It's what you see a lot in Black Hawk helicopters, those type of things. You can strap in, but it's not meant for long travel.
Well,
like you're not meant.
Got that in game right now because if you look at the Cutlass Black, it's just got the little fold down seats, but the Steel had lock-in seats. The Prowler's got lock-in seats. The Valkyrie, I believe, had lock-in seats as well.
And Hoplite.
Yeah, and then there were other ones like the Redeemer at the moment. It's just got 4 little. Oh wait, no, it does have a little harness. No, the Redeemer does have one. I was wrong.
Just to clear up what's going on in chat at the minute. No, they do. He does mean the Legionnaire. We're talking about dropships, so someone suggested Legionnaire as a dropship.
I've had this brought up.
Boarding vessel, not drop. Yeah,
I've had this brought up before. You could technically use the Legionnaire as a dropship, but would it be the best for it? No, because it's a boarding ship. It's designed. And that was the thing we talked about, didn't we? When we went through all the dropships, is they were all really good at one thing very specifically. They could lean into the others, but at that very particular thing, that would be the one thing it was best at.
I mean, you can use any ship as a dropship. What is it? Not the MPUV.
The Starfarer holds 20 people on seats.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of really good ships. The Argo, it's not the MPUV. What is it? The personnel version of it. It's... Yeah,
you just mean... I know what you mean.
I can't think of it.
The personnel
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's actually probably the best dropship in the game because of its size. Like it's a small, it's not a large target. It takes, it can take a small fire team. But anyways, sorry, just to get to that last point I was trying to make. 2 things that these ships are missing. One, I would give my left testicle if they would put a fast rope on the back of a Redeemer. Because to me, that's what's missing is the ability to like, you drop. Yeah, I'm not joking. I'll do it right on camera. Right in the back, you know how I used to have the utility mount that would slide in the Redeemer? Instead, put like either a tractor beam, that basically you could jump into it and lowers you down, or a rope from there, and you go up, you grab the rope, you slide down. So it could be a fast insertion vehicle.
That's a really cool idea. Sorry, he got a really cool visual in my head. You know how you have the ropes that rappel down from like a Black Hawk, but it's a tractor beam, and you kind of like just jump out, and it's like a beam of light that you just ride down. That would be sick.
I gotta agree, but I've got to say, for my money, I would love to see it on a Prowler. So those air shields open and it's simultaneous. Everyone just steps out into the beam.
The only downside. I mean, the Prowler's designed for those shields to be, utilized. So I could see them not adding that to the Prowler just because it would take away the functionality of that piece of it. So the other thing too, handrails. So the ability in the back of the Redeemer or in the back of the hoplite, a bar that goes across the ceiling that you hold on to. So you have a weapon in one hand, your bar in the other. And that way, when you're coming in, you're not flying around. And what do? When you're ready to leave, you slide down the bar, your hand down the bar, and then you jump out. So those the Valkyrie, for example, and just to be clear, the Valkyrie, even though it is a dropship, it is a dropship. It is not a fast insertion dropship. It is incredibly poorly designed. The seats in that ship should be along the wall in the main vehicle bay. That's where those seats should be. It makes no sense that there's an entire separate section through you have to go through 3 doors to get out of the vehicle. I mean, it makes no sense.
So I think this is somehow targeted what you said, but I could be wrong. Negativity says $2 super chat. Winner 2013 BMC Pain Olympics. I don't know what the BMC is. Do you know what that means? Is that a military thing? It sounds like a military thing. No?
It's a 3-letter abbreviation, that which probably makes it a military thing, but BMC.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Maybe I want to clarify that one, Negativity, because I don't get it, and I don't think ESA gets it either from his staunch science.
Yeah, a lot of acronyms and such, but there is there's not a personnel carrier. Gosh, it's like not an APC, but there's a particular, I think it's German. It's called a BMC, but I'm not entirely certain off the top of my head.
Well, I'm thinking of it too. We do have to get around to doing another What Will It Take episode. I've had a few requests for one, but it's very hard to get all 3 of us together because both you boys are very busy at this time of year. But coming up to the summer, Australian summer or northern winter, we'll probably have a bit more free time, hopefully, and can get on to that. All right, next question. Natal Pritz asks, they have previously said Perseus's heavy armor is not as good as capital armor. Does that mean, that all kinds of capital armor are better than Perseus, like Hull E, 890 Jump, BM, and Polaris? I think it just means there's gonna be different types of armor. So you'll probably have to assume there's going to be at least a light, medium, and heavy, and a capital style of armor. And that allows to have smaller ships that would have capital armor, but then they might be weaker to something else. The other thing about armor is it also looks like you place it on different parts of ships. So while you might have a ship like the Perseus that's literally covered in it, you'll get another ship that just has it to cover its volatile area, its weaker areas. I don't know. What's the word for that? It's susceptible areas? Is that what you call it?
Weak points, yeah. Yeah, I hope they go down the direction, and this isn't what they've announced, but it's what I hope they end up moving armor back towards, which was when the Ghost came out. They had talked about it not being a paint, but being a skin, that the material that the hull was made of had less signature to it. That was the original concept for that ship. What I would love to see are different types of armor that you can equip on any ship, regardless of size. Certain ships, probably industrial ships, wouldn't get the option to do military armor because who's going to make military armor for an industrial ship for an Endeavor? But I would love to see the Polaris have an option of going in up armored, hardened armor plating, or a energy absorbing, more stealthy armor that has less. Can take less damage, but makes your signature lower. I would love to see that level of gameplay in our ships.
Can you see what Negativity said there in response to his super chat?
I cannot.
It says it's a very old video of people doing what he said he'd do. Yeah. So,
Cut off testicle. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Message to self badges, don't watch that video.
That's not even one for the weekend. That
I think we've just realized that Negativity is a masochist. We'll leave it at that. MPCDN says, do you think bots or blades will are held back due to tech like Pez. I think they're held back because they're not really needed at the moment for Squadron 42. I think the extent of bots will probably be turrets, and that'll be about it. That's why we've seen them, like the turrets firing on a javelin, because clearly at some point they're going to have turrets firing on a javelin. And anything else will just be fake because it's a single player game. So bots and stuff won't come along until Star Citizen needs them rather than Squadron 42. In my book,
I mean, the tech is already there for. It's just the AI. It's already there. They could actually make quote unquote blades a thing right now if they wanted to, because all it would be is an invisible NPC sitting in your turret, moving and shooting. But I think they're looking to raise the game a little bit. I think they're looking to do it right when they introduce them.
Yeah.
Pilgrim 70's just said in chat, I'm sorry, X, you probably won't get this. He's just said, Brigade Modernization Command, BMC, is the new name for the Future Force Integration Directorate, FFID, part of the Army Capabilities Integration Center. And my brain just went, some fucking pogue got promoted off the back of that.
100%.
Fuck.
For those of you that are...
It doesn't need to sound complicated. Just make it common sense.
So the biggest thing, this is like kind of a joke now, but like the biggest focus right now for the military, for those of you that don't know, is a common operating picture. And that tends to be a combination of, when we talked about doing a personnel carrier that was a command and control one, that's, I think we talked about the Blue Force tracker, little things where you can see people manage, the battlefield. That's a thing. But what civilians, I don't think, realize is that the military is, and I'm going to assume every military is this way around the world, they are extremely good at senselessly overcomplicating things that don't need to be complicated. Like, it's, when people say military, the other thing too, I just get this off my chest. I say this every so often. When it says military grade, everybody in the military basically looks at that and thinks it's a piece of shit. Military grade is not a compliment.
Oh, wow. I can make you look really big. Woo!
Do it.
I need to I need to find some images of the stuff that we were using on the bridge on 23s, but it's all analog.
Yeah,
like
it's redundant. Yeah,
like on recent warships, the Type 23 frigate in the UK was the first warship to have a dial phone system installed. Everything else was point-to-point comms because it's just. It can stand up to so much shit. It doesn't need any programming. It's like, I press this button that has bridge next to it, and it bleeps on the bridge. And when they pick it up, I talk to them. There's no complication. It's not, and these units are, to call 8 or 9 different places, these units are like that to put in, and they're huge units you slot in, and they literally just sit into, it's like installing a car radio. They just slot into the bit in the back. And you screw it in, and it's like, and then people are going, oh, this thing must be full of military-grade components. It's like, yeah, same as the civilian components, except 3 times as expensive, and you would not believe how shit the support contract is.
I don't know anybody in the military that I work with that doesn't have a Garmin.
I've got to ask down there, this is relevant to what we're saying here. Architect TV says lowest bidder wins the contract. Now, I've always wondered, is that really how it works, or do they actually do a bit of research into what they're actually doing before they pick people? Because from an outsider looking in, that seems to be the case.
It's a spec, right? So what they do is they put out, you need to build us this that will do the following things to the following specifications. So like, we just got a new handgun, and previously our old handguns were Berettas, and we would use Glocks as well. But the new one's a Sig Sauer, and they put the handgun already existed. They didn't make it for the military; they just modified it to meet the specifications.
You lost me on your third acronym, but that's fine. Keep going.
Yeah, sorry. No. So the whole point is, yes, it's not just the lowest bidder. It's, do they meet the intended use and requirements of the bid? So sometimes things are picked that are more expensive, just because they meet the intended use better.
So how often would you say they don't pick the lowest bidder? there just happens to be so there's the medium spec, but this thing's just got this really cool feature that really just puts it over the line, but is probably the third lowest bidder.
I don't know if it's always the lowest spec, but there is a political aspect to it.
Very much so.
In the same way, because we look at the US and your Arleigh Burke hulls are incredibly capable. And for us, just the ability to go to the Yanks and just say, look, hey guys, we'll buy 12 of those off you. Like, there's no R&D cost because they're already in use. All we've got to do is be able to bolt stuff into it, and that we would never do it. Because, there's a reason we're very proud of the new carriers and the fact that BAE built them, despite the fact that our shipbuilding industry is almost non-existent now, and it is these defence contracts that are keeping it afloat in the UK, pretty much. Certainly for the military side of things, I don't want to say for sure, but there were rumblings, I don't know how true, because I wasn't part of the contracts, that BAE would have had significant layoffs and or gone under their shipbuilding side of things, had we not thrown the carrier contract their way. So there's certainly other things. And in chat, Admiral Kusanagi says something that I don't know if I've heard that phrase, but it certainly seems is lowest price technically acceptable.
That makes more sense.
So there is a threshold at which things have to operate above. After that, it's
So they tend to do a fairly decent job setting the parameters of what is acceptable for a contract bid. So a good example is an optic, right? And I'll stay away from acronyms and names, but an optic, they require you to do things like bring it up to a certain temperature, drop it, run it over with a truck, all these different things. Because when you give it to soldiers will find a way to break stuff. It is inevitable. Like we just, it's almost a point of pride if something is broken badly enough. So, and then you have things like, kind of another military thing that everybody makes fun of is COTS. Because the COTS that we use, the technology for making COTS hasn't changed much, and they are still pieces of shit. So, and it seems like a silly thing to complain about, but it's just, military grade doesn't mean good. Like, I have an entire kit where, gosh, I don't think anything is issue. It's all I have things for going to the field stateside.
I don't want to know what type of sex kit you got, okay? Just keep that to yourself.
Well,
no, that's just shower shoes, man.
Anyone that's familiar with the story of Bravo 20, which is the British patrol in the British SAS unit that went in to destroy Scuds in the Second World War, that was compromised because they refused to shoot Shepherd. And the Shepherd reported them, and they basically got hunted down. One of them escaped. 4 of them died. 3 of them were captured, I think. There is a reason. It's not a mistake that in the televised kind of series about it, they're all using M4s and American-made weapons. It's because they prefer them as being more reliable over what we had at the time, which we just switched to the SA-80. And the SA-80 had a whole load of teething problems, some really big issues that, they assure us now are over. And having not used the new SA-80, I wouldn't be able to tell you whether that was true or not. But
there's, weapons in the military aren't so big army and big military use the same weapon systems, and it makes a lot of sense why they do it, right? Because they're looking to keep parts, integration, ammunition, everything similar. When you zero in a weapon, a rifle, you should be able, and especially if it has a laser optic on it, you should be able to hand it to the soldier next to you, and they should be able to shoot and hit center mass dead on. So there's logic to it, but at the same time, what you do depends on what access you have to weapon systems. So not everybody gets access to an Mark 19 or grenade launcher, automatic grenade launcher, or a Glock or a Sig Sauer. Like not most soldiers in troops and Marines in the military don't use pistols. It's a very small group that actually do use pistols, and it's very particular jobs. So it all makes sense. Like,
can you do me a favor and just put your forehead really close to the camera? Are you wearing a patch on your head, on your hat? That's
yeah. These are the patches.
Can you show me? Put your head. I want to see it like this. Do this. That's not very. You've got a very small head. Okay.
It's actually a large head.
Mate, it's just after looking at me for a while, everyone has got a really fucking small head.
No, but look at me. I can make
Giganto
myself
Schwad
really
over
big.
here.
You know, he can't do
Just
that. Anyway.
please don't ever do that again.
It's just so far away from his camera. I do want to ask real quickly, what was the F-35 debacle? Because Australian government ordered 100 of those things from the US military, like what you were saying about the ships.
Well, not the military. The contract. Yeah, whoever had the contract.
Yeah. And apparently they're going to have a whole heap of trouble running them or something to do with the software. So what's this debacle that the Morningstar?
So that's actually a really good example of where the lowest bidder didn't win, because the F-35 out of the planes that were competing was the more expensive model. But that being said, the debacle is that they are, engineering-wise, they're extremely ambitious. They are not fighter jets. Even though they say they're fighter jets, they are not meant to dogfight. They're meant to do basically not command and control functions, but using technology to win. Like they can shoot a missile, I think it's from like 25 miles out at a target.
Okay. So they're more like a tactical strike craft? I don't know the terminology, but
strike. Yeah. And their E-war packages are extremely good. There's a vertical liftoff version of it. And the problem with these jets, so you have the Harrier, right? That's the one everyone thinks of when they think of vertical takeoff aircraft. The Harrier is extremely analog. It is it's extremely redundant in how it lifts, where the thrust comes from. The F-35 uses technology and computers to basically take off and land in that form. So when you're that technologically dependent on computers to operate your craft, you tend to have more issues in the long run with your craft. So, like the A-10 is a great example, the A-10 Warthog.
That's the Burt one, yeah? The Burt. Yeah, okay.
So if you don't know anything about that aircraft, it has a titanium bathtub. And the titanium bathtub is where the pilot sits. It is literally a vessel that's around the pilot, and it's intended to stop shots than a fighter jet or another aircraft designed to do that same thing. It's supposed to go in close. And those things, there have been stories of those things losing wings and still landing, like an entire wing gone and can still land. They're designed, their landing gear actually doesn't completely retract into the aircraft. And the reason why is that if something goes wrong with the landing gear, the wheels are still slightly showing, so you can belly land it on the landing gear.
So Stasis is not completely unrealistic when the planes have no wings and they land. Okay. All right.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, and that thing too, for anybody, like everybody knows the meme Burt, the Burt. But I can tell you, when you hear that sound, it is like, especially if you're in a bad situation, that sound is one of the most glorious sounds in the world because it scares the living shit out of everybody. Yeah. I mean, those things can, like, if you look at videos online, I'm sure you can look them up, but like they will just level a building, just completely level it.
I'm nodding along like I know here. I don't know. Like, I've never had that thing fire even on a range, let alone, when you're in trouble like that. However, I have heard that noise completely out of context, and it is so distinctive. And like I'm sure loads of people in chat are sitting and nodding along. You hear that noise, and it is so distinctive. And it is, to me, it's almost reminiscent of the Stukas in World War II that came in, and you have that noise that builds and builds and builds with the air pressure going through, and that was used as a weapon of terror. I mean, German pilots would sometimes do that.
Is it the Stukov?
Knowing they had no audience.
Is it is it the Stukov you're talking
about?
Stuka.
Stuka.
Yeah.
The Stuka dive bombers would have that noise, and like that noise just sent everyone running for cover. But as a psychological weapon, hearing that, it was like S.A. says, it's a double-bladed sword. Not only are you scaring the crap out of your opponent, even if the rounds aren't landing precisely on target, but it's also that morale of your own troops, of knowing that you're exercising that superiority of air power that we we tend to operate under.
And there's something about the sound, but it's out of sight, out of mind, and knowing they're above you and they can kind of come from like where you don't know as well. So I don't put it this way. I think if it was the same gun on a tank, it wouldn't have the same when it's flying over you and you. Yeah, I think it's got a way more. It'd only work on a plane, is what I'm trying to say. Long story short.
Yeah.
I think they missed an opportunity in Star Citizen. I think that they'll hopefully go back and revisit it with their sound and their audio. Like the Redeemer, for example, it has very unique engines. I would love for them to have a very unique sound, because that would mean that if you're in a battle and you hear that sound and you know that it's your guys and you hear that engine sound coming up. Same thing for the Inferno, right? The Inferno, like it sounds. It doesn't have an intimidating sound on the weapon, in my opinion. I think there's just something off about it.
The other thing I was going to say is you'd want different sounds for in space and down on planet too. But I think on planet is where it's going to have that effect, because again, that's where you'll have your on foot troops and stuff. So I think that's where they really, as you said, they get some really cool, unique sounds going there. Yeah. Sorry, Badges.
Well, interestingly, what you were saying with the A10's Gauss cannon is this thing, because it's quite low in register, you just get this feedback from all different directions, and the sound seems to last seconds after it's cut out. And that's why that video they did last week, the ISC, talking about reverb and having stuff coming back at you. I mean, if they do, because, we all see the ISCs with the sound design, and we all get, a lot of people go, oh, it's just filler and all the rest of it. And it's like, yes, it is. But I played Armor, which had very basic sound design, but very realistic weapons. Or I say realistic weapons. It's trying to be realistic with like whip cracks and all that sort of stuff. And they made an entire mod for it called JSRS Sound Mod, which massively changes the system. And the first time what are you watching, X? What is on your history here, dude?
What I'm pulling up there is I'm trying to see if IC was there. This is what you're looking at is the Inforunners YouTube channel, and that's just what it feeds us. It just feeds us random shit. I think someone was on there looking up something, and it's just fed us heaps of that shit. But yeah, I don't use that. I use my normal one. I only log on when I do this stuff. Anyway.
But once you have that sound in, like you're saying, when you have that awesome flyby sound, and as Essay says, once you're able to recognize the sounds of engines, and craft coming up on you and that sort of stuff, when you hear tanks with all the wheels squeaking, and you can actually hear the treads laying and stuff crunching as it goes over, if you get sound design that's really, really high fidelity, it just completely changes the game.
Actually, one that me and Essay can relate to, you might be able to do it with another game, but Hunt Showdown. We can tell where a gun is and how far away it is just from the sound. We're like, oh, that's a Sparks, and it's about 400 meters away.
Their sound design's amazing.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot of hope, actually, for Star Citizen in the long run, because I think, first of all, Star Citizen, its alphas had more legs than most video games have that are finished. So, but, Hunt is an interesting game because they constantly improve it. They constantly work on the sound design. So like recently they had a sound patch, pass, where they changed the sound of footsteps in buildings so that you could tell whether the footstep is on wood or and the distance. And you can. Hunt's a strange game because I've actually, and I know actually you've probably done the same thing, you kill people through a floor because you can hear them walking.
Yep. The reason we use Hunt as well is Hunt is technically the Crytek engine, so it's very, very similar to Star Citizen. So yeah. Lemming said, Inforunners, look at Darktide. The sound is so important. Yeah. Sound cues are a big thing in game. I think what you were trying to hit on, Badges, when you were talking about sound is one of those things that no one seems to give a shit about until it's not there. Right, and that's the thing that's so hard to give these sound designers the time of the sun, because it's just not something you can absorb. You can't, especially men. Let's be honest, men are very visual, right? So when you talk about sound, we just don't absorb it as well, but we do all definitely notice it when it is not there. So yeah, what are you doing, Badges?
Right. Next question. Let's go. Let's keep these going.
All right. How amazing is the Galaxy, especially when it gets the Perseus module to equip a Perseus turret, and we can replace the Perseus with a Galaxy? I think you're reading the wrong Q&A. There was nothing about guns on the Perseus. On the Galaxy. So,
Galaxy, yeah.
He's trying to wind me up. Shut up.
Yeah. Easy to wind up. Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah, the Galaxy has they very well could do like an E-Warfare suite for it or something in the future and expand its capabilities, but it's never going to be a gunship. You know, the only complaint I have about the Galaxy is that it outguns the Carrick. That still bothers me. Because the Carrick being a military craft, it should outgun the Galaxy.
I think we all have to agree that Mikhail now has to call his RSI Galaxy the Mick Perseus or something like that, or the Mick Badges. Yeah. And Badges will call his Perseus Badges Big Badger Face or something like that. Yeah.
Budget Galaxy.
Yeah. It's my Galaxy.
So, Mr. Buter 007 says, I at the moment own a Bunny Merchantman, but I'm thinking of upgrading it to a Nautilus due to its passive-aggressive playstyle. Should I upgrade it next time? It's possible, or should I wait for more info?
If you are jumping off, I think now is the time. At the $650 price point, I think it is more than likely, based on what they've done in the past, I think they're going to drop it the final price of that ship at $750, right? And if you look at what you can jump to right now, the next time that jumps, if it does jump another $50, I'm completely wrong, right? But if it jumps $100 on its final release, knowing they were intending to release it in March, right? That was their intent. I know they've changed that, right? You have to now assume, based on that intent, they were intending to jump by another $100 and stop at $750. That was their intent, right? So if you look at it like that, the next jump won't be 50, it'll be 100 on release. So they're going to jump right past everything you can jump off to. So to me, now is the time to jump off. And if they've delayed it, that gives you even more time to jump off. I don't know if these two gents here agree with me, but me and Algrid are pretty much on the same page. What do you two boys think? Because you've got all those ships that are 700 plus. So you've got the Nautilus, the Hammerhead, the Perseus is in there just. And you've got the Polaris and the A2. So you've got about 5 things you can jump to right now. But as soon as that jumps, let's say it goes to 700, you literally, the numbers drop a lot more. So for me,
you're not wrong. I mean, like if you're going to, if it's an option that you want, now is the logical, sooner the better, because it's never going to go down in price. It's only going to go up.
Here's the other way. Buy it with credit and just sit on it as a CCU, and if it does go up, you melt it and rebuy it back again. That's what I've been doing the whole time. I took one Perseus CCU that was $75 this sale that just passed. I melted it and bought 3 of them for the same price. You know, and so now I've got 3 to sit on instead of 1.
You know, there's a lot of ships that are assembled that are unassembled in my hangar, and I think that's a lot for most of the Inforunners. Where, you know, like I the only ship that I own outright is a Carrick, the large ship, because I have the original concept Carrick.
Mine's the same. Mine are all in chains,
and a BMM, because I have original concept BMM too. Same. So I have those 2 ships. But the ship that I'm really looking forward to is the Polaris. That's just a series of CCU chains in my hangar, and it's annoying. And
to answer the question where he's talking about jumping off, like what's better? So Negativity says, a $10 super chat says, this is worth $10. The Nautilus is way better than the Perseus. Same guns, just 1 turret less and more armor and shields. I got a better idea. Buy a CC from the Perseus to the Nautilus and decide when they come out which one you want. I don't think you can disagree with that, Badges, yeah? Because there's you're protecting
I was
yourself.
literally about to say the same about you know, the previous question is that, you know, these ships are so far away at the moment because they're either not in production, or like the Nautilus requires drones and all that sort of stuff to be out before we can really get any use out of it.
Don't read anything else.
Nothing's stopping you buying the CCU, and then, you know, if the CCU is invalid because your ship's gone up in value and blah blah blah, so what? Melt it. You got the store credit.
Yeah.
You know, you're all good.
Yeah,
so Starlet does have a point, though. It does get frustrating after a while having so many things in chains. So I do agree with her. It does get frustrating. But again, once the ship comes out, if you really want it, you just assemble the chain. You know, it's entirely up to you.
My hangar, I think, is 23 pages.
Yeah,
I believe it's 23 pages.
mine's something like
And
that
most
as
of
well.
those are CCUs, and it is annoying. That is one. I mean, she's dead on describing it as annoying because to find something, especially because the older ships, and for newer backers, you haven't experienced this, but certain ships that and upgrades that the older backers have, you actually can't search for. When you search for like standalone ship, they won't pop up. It's the weirdest thing. It's a legacy issue, but it's like, you know, there have been times where I've looked through, like, I mean, X, I think you did this recently too, where like I was looking for my F7A upgrade in my hangar, and I found two because I completely had misplaced one. I just didn't know it was there.
So really quickly, I don't read what negativity said in chat, by the way, Badges. You'll get triggered. He's trying to trigger you. There's this really cool extension you can get, right? That I would highly recommend for anyone that has a fleet that is way too big. I'm just trying to turn it back on because I had it hidden for some reason. Settings, extensions. So this one here is called STAR-R5HP. You can get it for both Chrome, Firefox, and other ones. Where the hell is it? Where is it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone?
Can't help you, bro.
It's gone. Why is it?
This is such a strange problem to have, though, that we're kind of going, God damn, I have so much money tied up in this game that I cannot find my ship.
Oh, it's
So here it is. No, here it is. I found it. So this is it here. This is it for Firefox. I had it disabled because it's when the new sales come along, they stuff up, right? So if we now go back to the hangar and do a refresh, not only does it upgrade the graphics of a lot of these thumbnails, I didn't, and it was Lemming that taught me this, and it's not working now. Of course, it's not working here. I'm going to refresh again. Hold on. What it does is when it loads, it actually puts a search bar in. So I'll let it load while we talk. But yeah, once the search bar goes in, oh man, it saves your life so much. And I didn't even know it existed because it's very, very light and faint. I'll give it a moment, but we'll talk about other stuff and come back to it. But actually,
I mean, to go back as a cap on that Nautilus question, the only thing that I would say is that if you are looking at doing something like going from a BMM to a Nautilus, just know the Nautilus gameplay loop is going to be extremely limited. It is not going to be a very versatile ship. So as long as before you pull the trigger on that and apply all those CCUs, just, you know, make sure that's the direction you want to go. Because you can, I think if you're, what is it? Do you have to be a concierge to take a CCU off?
I don't know, but what the fuck is this? Sorry. What is this? what are they giving me? What is this? They're giving you a
sextant.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is that what it is? A sextant?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks for the sextant. That's in green and red. Okay.
That makes it festive.
Yeah. Okay, so it's still not working. Oh, there it is. See this little faint search box here? It's incredibly faint. Like you don't look at it properly and you'll miss it. You can now type in like something like Merchantman, and it actually brings up the other stuff you've got. And look, it just starts filtering them all out. And so here are those 3 Merchantman to Perseus CCUs I was talking about that I picked up. And these are every single one. So if you had this installed on yours, SA, you could literally go in and it just filters. Oh, it's such a lifesaver. I cannot, you know. It even tells you the insane amount of CCUs that I have, the insane amount of ships. If you click on it, it even shows you the amount of money I've now spent. So I've just passed the $6,000 barrier. Oh god, I'm too far in. But yeah. So yeah, highly recommend that Ship Explore, or where was it? If I go back to it,
Hangar Explore.
Hangar Explorer. Yeah, it's available on Chrome as well. I know that for a fact. So if you want something that just makes your life a little easier. Whoa, why is there a person standing behind you, SA? It's very creepy. Look at that. When it's on a white background, it's about to stab you. But yeah. All right, we'll go back over to the normal view before I freak out anymore. All right, next question. At the moment, I own no, it's the same one we just answered. Jeff Walk asks, do you think CIG, will make NPC crew more expensive than just hiring? No, I think they'll be the same price. Do you guys think any different?
No. I mean, I don't think we're going to... So for hiring NPC crew, I do think there's going to be a large variety in prices that you'll pay. I think some of that will be based off of location and the rarity of getting NPCs in a location. Some of it will be based off of criminality. So it's probably going to, like, you might end up paying a different amount if you're hiring a pirate versus hiring a mercenary versus hiring like an engineer. There's just going to be variety in what you end up paying your crews. But and then rarity, right? Like if you're trying to hire a crew member in a less populated system where there are fewer people, you might have a more limited selection and they might cost you a little less because they're poorer. They might cost you more because there are fewer of them. So there'll be some variety. The funny thing to me about where, when we were asking the question of NPC crew and hiring them is, I definitely want NPC gunners more than likely, but I think that they've, just as backup, if I want to play by myself or just one or two friends, but players are just such superior crew members to any NPC you can hire.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I had something I had to say and I've now forgotten. So it can't have been important.
Super chat.
Oh yeah, super chat. That's what it was. LeCount says, "Will 318 give us the feeling of a dead ship coming from a frigate? Everyone makes up when the ship turns off. Creepy feelings. What, they make out? Is that what happens in the military? Everyone just starts making out because they're scared in the dark. Is that what he's saying? That's how I read that.
No, you're misreading it and then projecting.
Oh, okay.
Like massively projecting.
Right. So what does he mean then?
So will 318 give us the feeling of a dead ship? So it's like the whole ghost ship thing, right? Everyone wakes up when the ship turns off. Creepy feeling, a quiet ship at sea. Yeah, I mean maybe not initially, but there's two thoughts I've got for that. One, that's going to make Day of the Vara a lot scarier if your ship can just randomly deactivate and flash and because I'm not going to lie. If the light starts flashing on and off and a little girl with really long dark hair appears in the corner, I am going out the airlock regardless of whether I'm wearing a helmet. I don't care. But the other thing, I don't know if you guys saw it in Elite as they started to add the alien race. They had these instances of players encountering these ships, but they would be powered down for it. So they're flying along and all of a sudden their ship powers down, but some of their systems remain. So they know it's not like a bug. And then all of a sudden there's this sound of this thing comes over the top and they see it and it kind of scans them and disappears. There's one video I watched on YouTube. It was just really impressive to watch. And I think it can be used as quite a fun storytelling mechanic. To lose control of your ship when you've got power and this amount of depth to it, to just have a completely unexplainable why did everything switch off?
They could have up the ante with Star Citizen and actually have them like teleported out into something, or and they do the testing or probing or whatever, and then you wake up back in your ship hours later or whatever. They could do that as well. So yeah, I think they could definitely borrow from that for sure. You're laughing because I said probing. I know you've so much.
I literally went to Cartman, like, and the aliens gave me an anal probe.
That's why we can't have nice things, Essay. This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, you might be right.
All right, next question. I'm actually... Real quick, you do the next one. I want to check and see if IC is out yet, but it keeps not coming up. So I've got a feeling that it's not coming today, or it's coming really late.
Orion Maelstrom 82 said, I had a phone call, I had to step away. Did he happen to answer the question on the whole B? Yes, we don't see any reason why it wouldn't come shortly after the C, if the C is finished. Jeff Walk asks, do you think... I know you did that one.
Yep.
Which space... as answering a question, this is great. I'm doing really well here.
You're not going to get the main gig anytime soon, are you? No, it's fine.
Well,
my job is safe.
I think X is here asking us questions from his alt account because Tentacle Love asks, "Are you guys loving the Luminalia gifts? I thought the undersuits were amazing."
You would, tentacle love. Yeah, all over my body.
I
Yeah.
don't know what that was, by the way.
Yeah, that was your version of tentacle love.
That's tentacles.
Yeah.
Just-
I think they're going to start with the worst stuff and work their way up. I think some of the ship skins are pretty good. I am kind of happy to see that they're getting more starter ships out there. I think it kind of encourages more people into the game. Put it this way, if they came out with a Carrick skin, I think it would piss a lot of people off. Just to... Yeah. Next question?
Yeah. I really like the Sexton. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Men of Culture. What's really fun is it's completely fucking useless in space.
Do you think
because it requires a horizon for a start.
Do you think it's an in-game item, or do you think it's just like a flare that goes in your hangar?
Oh yeah, you'll be able to carry it around. I'm literally going to use it to beat people to death that try to board my Perseus.
Yeah.
And out in the cabin and just be, everyone else will be like, get the FS9, get the railgun, get the grenade launcher. Be like, why is the captain walking around with the Sextant in his hand? It's like, come here.
Yeah, you just want a sextant in one hand and a pipe in the other. That's old man Hurston right there. Anyway, all right. Hawkeye asks, do you think they are going to have different levels of armor and subtypes as well? Yeah, they're meant to have light, medium, and heavy. They already have that in game right now. Or do you mean this for ships? This can be where it changes. Yeah, I think he means on ships.
I think ships.
Yeah. And we kind of did allude to that before. They've kind of mentioned light, medium, and heavy in capital. So yeah. Actually,
I think they're going to have different types of armor, and they're going to be different qualities to each of them.
This might be a good.
I could easily see.
Go ahead.
Sorry, what was that?
No, go ahead.
I mean, I could easily see like heavy armor, for example, adding a lot of mass to your vessel, and making it much more harder to maneuver in atmosphere or next to large planetary bodies.
So you sent me this photo. Is this just to show how much damage they can take?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly, and that's a plane that landed. It didn't crash. It took a huge amount of damage and was able to land. The other image actually has even a better image of the damage that I sent you.
The only thing about the other image that you sent me that I don't think you realized is it's from a video game.
Yeah.
So
it's
not real.
But it demonstrates like the type of damage that these crafts can have. Like an immense, largely. So, like, I mean, I could find you more images, but like, they can blow off engines, they can blow off wings, they can blow off tail sections. And when you think about the type of design of an aircraft like this, it's designed not to get away from or to avoid damage. It's designed to take damage.
So this
just makes it extreme.
So let's think about it. The Terrapin is a little bit like that. Is there anything else that you can? I mean, Perseus is obviously one of them.
Well, the thing is, I don't think anything's like that yet because the Terrapin is heavily armored. This is not heavily armored. It's just extremely redundant. Like it has, it's fly-by-wire, but it's got two systems in it. You know what I mean? Like it's just if one thing goes out, there's another part of it that can be used.
You mentioned the word redundant. As soon as I heard that word, the first word I thought of was the Vanguard. Double redundant systems. It's got two of every single component.
Yeah, actually, that would probably be the closest ship that we have to that at this point. Yeah, but I mean, the idea in my mind is, everybody. So far, all we have in Star Citizen is tanky, right? How many hit points does a ship have? How much damage can it take? In the future, I hope we start getting into hey, this ship has 3 capacitors or 3 blades located in different parts of the ship, similar to the Vanguard where they have components located in different parts. If you lose part of the ship still can function. And
we haven't even got into that part yet where, they're trying to put components wherever they can basically at this point in time, but like that may be a thing where they're going to move components because ships are just too weak because all they can look at the Redeemer. All the components in that back section, like that thing might be a completely weak point to the ship because they're all in the same spot.
The MSR is the same way.
Yeah. Even the Corsair's got I think it's a quantum drive or something like that is in that back section of the Corsair, and it's obviously the weakest section of the entire ship. So I don't know if it's deliberate or whatever, or they originally designed that hexagon room to fit everything, and then they were like, oh shit, it doesn't fit. So yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Alrighty, back to the main one. Next question. Where are we up to, Badges?
The K9 Music asks, Do you think the Perseus will be the only ship we will get with that kind of size per crew? Love the Perseus and its goal, but its price kills me.
Wouldn't that be? I'm just going to chuck it back at you real quick. The Redeemer. It's only one crew less.
Yeah, I think there's lots of ships. I mean, you look at the Carrick, is what 20 odd meters bigger than the Perseus, so
that's 5
similar
to 8.
size crew.
5 to 8. It's probably double if you're really honest with yourself there.
Well, I mean, 6, 8. It's all in the same ballpark. Same with the Galaxy sitting in that range.
6.
So yeah, I think there's a fair amount that are going to sit in that bracket and be there. But yes, you're right. The price is not a lot of fun. I'm right there with you. I was lucky enough that you good people actually are the reason I own a Perseus, headed by this guy. Sorted me out and out.
It wasn't just all on me. It was.
Oh no, absolutely,
definitely a team effort. I tried to do it all in the background without you, and then you didn't want to take it. I'm like, we're gonna make you take it. You're gonna take it good. You're gonna take it hard, and you ended up taking it like a champ. That's how it is. No.
I don't understand how we went from such a nice topic to the things you've heard, the things you've just said. I'm going to hear in my nightmares.
Good.
Like, this is nightmare fuel. SA, you left at just the right moment.
Yeah. You can't believe
just the right moment.
You can't believe the worst things he just said. It was terrible. Yeah, it was disgusting.
I can't. Good job. I've not got much of a gag reflex in it because that would have been awful.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, moving swiftly on. JL Smither asks, how much should someone expect to pay with store credit after obtaining your CCU chains? Oh, is what that question sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. I don't know if we've missed some context of whether you were responding and the bots just picked it up.
So in relation to that specifically, it's just how long you spend putting chains in. Like if you do what the person did to get a $95 Carrick, he did 4 sales to get to that. He also used a referral Gladius to do that. But it's just, you're probably never ever going to obtain those savings again because they've changed how CCUs work. They've kind of caught on to the fact what some people are doing. So as usual, as time goes by, as prices usually get worse. It's what the discount you were happy with at the end of the day. But as we were alluding to before, if you kind of sit on those chains, you can potentially save more money down the line. So the more patient you are, the more you can save. Clickety clack. My name is Badges.
So there are excess inventory issues, as you can tell. There are 3 types of CCUs in general. So the first type are war bond, right? You're putting fresh cash into the game for a discount. The second are speculation CCUs. So those are for, you can usually pick them up at the IAE or Invictus, and those are for ships that haven't been released yet that will likely jump when they are released. And you can buy those with credit. So that's what my Polaris CCU is, right? It's one that I bought for credit. And then you have just standard CCUs, those in the gap. Like you can buy for credit or cash, doesn't matter, but they're never going to go up in price, or they're very unlikely to go up in price. Sometimes they do. Like I'm sure that the 600i is a release ship, but I'm sure when that rework comes out, they'll probably up the price a little bit.
Yeah,
I think there's a good chance they will.
Yeah, I'd have to assume that the Perseus, when it releases, will probably come out at $750. $75 seems to be about right for that. Would make kind of where I'm thinking.
With the Polaris rework too, that made me think the Polaris is going to get a rather significant jump. So yeah, if you're looking at getting one, grab a CCU when you can.
The other way they go is they make it exactly the same price as the Hammerhead, so it would make the final price $725. That also lines up. I could
see the Perseus being $725. The Polaris, because of it didn't grow a ton, but what they added to that vessel, I expect it to be a rather significant little bump.
Did you say the Polaris?
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon that'll be $850, same in line with where the Pioneer is right now, and then the Pioneer will probably go to $950. That's kind of what I'm expecting. Ironically, I'd almost be happier if they made the Pioneer over 1,000, so when you buy
1,000,
it,
yeah.
you automatically get LTI with it.
LTI.
Because
yeah.
where it is right now, it's just ridiculous because you can't CCU to it. You don't get LTI on it. It's just... Like, I'm more likely to recommend an Idris or a Master set to someone than a Pioneer because you just can't... Like, I know...
You can't CCU to it, yeah.
Yeah, because you can't CCU to it and you can't get LTI on it. Like, it's just... It's the one ship that kind of breaks a lot of their rules. You know, like, why is it not CCU-able? Because they obviously want it rarer. But then, obviously, they... It breaks all their own rules. So... inconsistent as usual, as I always say. The only consistent thing is inconsistency. So yeah. All right, next question. Connor L asks, what do you think insurance times will be longer to bring ships from another system to encourage ship moving gameplay? I think they're pretty long. They've talked about increasing them recently, haven't they? And I think, like, at the moment most of them are under an hour. I think that would be... That's a pretty short wait, let's be honest. They've kind of stated...
I thought they'd kind of said that they were going to shorten the timers during the early stages of the alpha because there's just nothing else to do.
Yep. But I think you'd agree the bigger a ship gets, the longer it's going to take. I also think, sadly, let's put it this way: if you had to wait an hour for an Aurora, like, and that's the only ship you have, that is going to suck balls. That's going to be so bad. Right?
I would kind of hope they're going to do something like you're going to get like a new starter insurance. So for the first, say, 7 or 14 days, you know, your claim is almost instant on the basic stuff, you know, whatever you came with your package. So you can go out without fear of, oh God, I flew into a pylon and exploded and, you know, now I don't want to go anywhere because I'll just be bored walking around the station for 20 minutes. It'd be nice to see them do something to protect the new guys and you know, not make them... You want to get in a ship and you want people to want to fly around. You don't want to make it a tribulation for them.
And insurance will... You know, what if insurance is the speed that the ships are now and non-insured are the ones that take so much longer? You know, it also does give... if you know you're just doing an A to B trip, you might take a cheaper ship because you know it might take longer to come back, you know, things like that. So it does give some, what's the word I'm looking for? Validity, I guess, is a word I could use, to having smaller ships. But again, with the price they are, you can just buy them in game. I actually think that would be a thing. Like, someone's like, well, I can wait 4 hours for my reclaimer to come back, or I can just buy this vulture with pocket change, you know.
So in the real world, when you're looking at buying a vehicle, and you go to a dealer or you're online, whatever you're doing, in some cases, you might want a particular color or trim fitting where that vehicle has to be shipped to the dealer and takes longer. What I would love to see them do in the game is where RSI has a dealership on, you know, whatever, and Drake has a dealership, and, you know, Crusader might, and they're in different locations. Like, if you go to Orison, you can pick up your Crusader ship almost instantly. Like, you make a claim and they're like, oh yeah, we got one in stock at Orison. Take a transportation to Orison, pick it up. Or you can wait, you know, 2 hours or whatever it's going to be for that to be delivered to your hangar. But I would love to see a mechanic where to expedite is actually you go pick up your ship rather than paying a fee to expedite it. And it would add a lot of, in my opinion, interesting travel dynamics, because there'd be certain systems you couldn't possibly get a Drake ship. You might have to go to an entire different system because, you know, this, you know, there wouldn't be a Drake dealer or Microtech. We know that, right? So actually, you might have to, you know.
You just made me think of something else. Do you remember that quest they had a couple of years back where they gave you a loaner cutlass that you picked up at the location? That would be another way they could protect newer players, where they go, all right, so you've got an Aurora, we need you to use a bigger ship, so here's a Cutlass, here's a Freelancer, we need you to use this specific ship for said mission. And if you lose it, it doesn't matter because you just respawn at your hab and your other starter ship's there. So that could be a really cool way to also introduce the ships above where you are, so you can go, wow, I used that ship, that was awesome, I'm going to get one of those. I think that's a very clever way to introduce players to new ships. Try before you buy through questing or missions. Yeah. What do you guys think about that, or am I pie in the sky again?
That would be solid.
Yeah, I think the fact that it was in and removed indicated that they want it. It's just not. It doesn't. It's not working alongside their goals at the minute. I also think, for the travel and stuff, the AI-driven flights. We saw in CitizenCon a long old time ago, the one before the whole Rona thing.
They still have the airports there that say domestic and interplanetary as well. So you are.
Well, they had Microtech Valkyrie taking the player on the mission from New Babbage to a research facility somewhere, whether we had to steal that data or they had to steal that data. So yeah, I think that kind of NPC flying you around, ships you can steal, you can nick, you've got to escape. Just take one of theirs as you're running out, into the hangar trying to get away from people.
They also talked
loads
about
of options
going the other way too. They talked about like janitorial missions or just on foot missions in general when you're stuck on a place. Because I actually reckon that'll be a thing. Eventually, you'll get stuck, and it's like, well, I've either got friends to come pick me up, or I've got to get my. You could literally be on a planet where they don't let people in. You have to work your way up to get out, But you had to come there to get rep to get that thing, knowing that you'd be stuck on that planet for a day trying to get out of there or whatever. So you'd go in with extra credits or something like that to try and get yourself out quicker, or that will be a thing. You know what the writers like in this game? They like to keep us on our toes. So, yeah. Okay. Next question. This is from Erich Lowe Smith, asks, which current loop profession needs the most work for 4.0?
All of them.
All
the ones we don't have yet. God damn it.
And we just don't know.
Yeah, that's...
Right?
For me, I think that, if I really put my cards on the table, right, and said, what is the profession I want most at the moment, and I'd even put it above salvage, to be honest with you, it's scanning. Because once scanning comes in, it kind of completes that basic loop of piracy. Also, the cargo refactor, I think upping that because it's a real basic mechanic, right? So that and cargo are probably the two most important at the moment, because once you get that going, it gives a reason for piracy to be a thing. And once that kicks in, the escorts kick in, the bounty hunting kicks in, they are all just automatic follow-ons from that. But at the moment, there's nowhere for pirates to find you, and there's no way to find pirates.
And there are other secondary effects for bringing scanning in as well, which means finally low signature by design of components and power usage is going to be a thing. Yep. It's like just scanning is used in pretty much every profession. Like even with cargo, being able to scan cargo, I mean, that's actually, already, our ships already get scanned, but it's a diverse mechanic, and it's probably the one that's going to bring the most amount of player impact.
Yeah. And, obviously it's going to be a little way down the line, but just being able to have the shielded scanners may be something that you can employ that will fool scanners for a little while and shield objects or cargo or people on your ship or whatever. But yeah, I think for me, in terms of loops, seeing them come into the verse, exploration's got to be up there, right? To start fleshing that out, because that's going to be so big, so varied. Let's start seeing some of it.
I think scanning at the basic level is the various, that's tier 0 exploration in my book. And I think more in-depth scanning, for example, you could have a terrapin running in front of the mining crew and stuff like that.
I see that. I think. Sorry, I said.
No, go ahead.
I think there's definitely that appetite for that feeling of being the first one there, being the only one there, discovering something that not everyone has found.
Yep.
And I think those sorts of feelings, sure, there are lots of people out there who want that to be planets and systems and new races, tech, whatever. But it can be locations. It can be, I remember flying around one of the quarries, I think, on Hourston or whatever it was, and I'd never been there before, and just finding like a little, what looked like a mobile phone signal tower, and that, seeing these new models that we hadn't seen before, going to the snake pit, that racing
We did that together,
location that's
didn't we?
in at the moment. Yeah, it was phenomenal. Just running around it and seeing models that we haven't yet seen in the verse. And we're going to have that again, obviously, with the caves and the 600i crash site that's coming, the new racing sites that are coming. We're going to have those feelings again. But, you know, those little ones to go off, you know, when they come in 3.18, everyone's going to go there because it's the new hotness.
Well, so, I mean, exploration, I definitely want to do exploration. I have a Carrick, definitely interested in doing it, but I don't think exploration is going to be what people think it's going to be. Like, if it's an uncharted system, you're not going to be quantuming through that system because you're going to hit an asteroid, or you're going to hit some type of planetary body, or go through a radiation belt, or whatever it's going to be, because it's not scanned, it's not explored yet, right? Most of exploration, when we're talking about real exploration gameplay, is going to be very slow. Like, to scan an entire planet is probably going to take you 3 or 4 days of gameplay.
That's why they have a ship called the Odyssey. That's what that ship is for.
Yeah, and you know, a new system is going to be fantastic to find, right? But like, you're going to have to use potentially a Carrick to map the jump point. Then you get in there, and you're going to have to, you know, a system like, imagine a system the size of Pyro and being the first people there.
Yep.
Like, that's a very slow roll to go through and explore that system and start pulling things out of it.
And visually, say something like a jump point, you might be able to see it from a fair way away, but not, a lot of them have been in the range points and stuff like that. And even if you can see it, like these systems that we're dealing with, like the really loud typing. Sorry, I'm just being real subtle. Basically. I will smack you over the head with that keyboard.
Not as subtle as I am.
Yeah. So you've just totally destroyed my train of thought. We're dealing with Stanton and Pyro that are fairly small systems compared to some of the systems. And so finding, as you said, finding a jump point that is even potentially there would be radically slow. Because if you warp, you'll just jump over it. You know, you'll probably get pointed towards an area where it is, but you'll have to keep refining that search in to find it.
Exactly. So my hope for that is that when scanning does arrive and they give us the ability to get good at it, I mean, if they do scanning right, the nuances that they can add, where a player that does it more and more will pick up on cues, like different energy readings or different like a particular wavelength is going to be a particular way if a jump point is there, and they can start walking it in on what they're looking for. They can make it a really rewarding gameplay.
Also, like, there'll be certain scanners for certain things, I think is kind of what you're alluding to. So if you are looking just for jump points, you might find the jump point if you're within range of it, but what if it's a different type of jump point and it gives off a different signal? You know what I mean? So
my guess is that when computers actually come into play, I think that they're just for simplicity of gameplay, the scanner itself will stay the same, but the computer or software package you'll run with it will be vastly different. So there's going to be a ship like a Carrick that could probably, because it has so many spots in its computer banks, I think it's 3 mediums? It's going to allow you to scan for a huge variety of different things at different levels, or be extremely specialized in one thing. So it could be that your Carrick, one player's Carrick could find a jump point at 30,000 kilometers, and another player's could find it at 90 because they specialize in just jump point scanning.
Yep. I think the other part that's really important to talk about exploration is that it is going to be heavily data based. I think you will find that you do a lot of work with data runners in the exploration field. I fully expect there will be people in this game that are just data brokers. You know, that they literally just sit at a city and all they do is sell data.
I mean, that's like, I never really got into EVE, but I mean, EVE definitely has that aspect of it. And a lot of really involved MMOs do as well. Like Star Wars Galaxies had it because there would be certain, the data trading in mining or resource control was huge. Yep. Like people would sit on resources and find them and sell them for actual real world money. So yeah, Star Citizen definitely is going to have actual real world data brokers, people that are going to sell information.
That doesn't appeal to me, but I know there's going to be someone that gets off on just like controlling the entire data market. There will be someone out there that all he wants to do is do that. So I did want to add real quickly, when we're talking about piracy before, you need to visually realize that there are a lot of people that were on the forums recently going off about piracy and stuff like that, right? But to have the bounty hunting, to have the escorts, you have to have that counter gameplay to that. So for those two things to be a thing, the escorts and the combat and all that, you know, PvP, whether you're on the piracy side of it or the good guy side of it, if that's how you see it, right? You need to have both sides. It's the only way it works, right? And so you, I think that a military term that you guys both might know is called embrace the suck. And I think that's kind of, if you're not into piracy, you're just going to have to embrace the suck. Because if you want that to be a thing, am I wrong in that? You tell me if I'm wrong, right? Because I think if you want the bounty hunting gameplay and you want the escort gameplay, you're going to have the other side of it. It's just how it is.
Yeah, I look at that term to mean something a little more extreme, but yeah,
sorry to borrow.
No. It's like embrace the suck is like when you're cold and wet or hot and sweaty and covered in dirt, sleeping on, you know, with a rock for a pillow and, or barely sleeping. And you either laugh at it, or it just breaks you down and you just got, that's the reality.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just appropriated.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It was just, I'd never expected you to ever say that phrase in your life. So
okay, sorry.
it was hilarious. I think you're right. I think like you have to have both edges of, those gameplay pieces are double-edged swords. Like it's got to be able to cut you to have any meaning. So yeah, I mean, I think that the gameplay, the funny thing about Star Citizen that we don't really have right now and people don't talk about is like the cargo refactor has to be a thing for piracy.
Yep.
Like every system is dependent on some other system that you just wouldn't expect. And I'm sure there's pirates that are like, well, why do I need a cargo refractor, or why do I need salvage in play?
Yep.
Well, if you're going to end up salvaging components out of derelict ships that you've just taken out,
salvage is
that gameplay needs to be there.
Salvage heavily leans on piracy, believe it or not.
Yeah.
You can see why Drake is God of Vulture. You really, really can, because it makes a lot of sense. Because like, if they're not going to give you anything, you board the ship, kill them, and just take the entire ship. Just scrap it there on the spot, and there's your payday.
I think what we're going to see in the long term of Star Citizen is that your more casual players will stay in larger systems where they can just stop at a Lagrange point, get fuel, go off and do their thing. But your more adventurous players that are really into it, not just for money, but just for the challenge, are going to be the ones that are like, hey, I'm taking everything I have on this ship and I'm taking it to this sector, and I'm going to, even Pioneer to build something.
I was going to say, even early on right now, I think you'll see that with Stanton versus Pyro. You'll get the regular person that just wants to do their cargo runs over and over and over routinely will stay in Stanton, and the someone that wants to go for that big payday gamble will go to Pyro.
Well, Pyro, I think, is going to be org central when it comes out. I mean, if you're not a member of an org, Pyro is probably not going to be an option for you, because it's the same thing, right? We love as players to break systems, and I guarantee you, the first people to make it through those jump points and be on the other side of Pyro and maintain that presence on servers, they're going to shake down anybody that is coming through that jump point. So you better be coming with a large group. So
TM Kingman says, quote, this is on Twitch, he just asked this, with all the future gameplay, don't they have to at least get basic simple scanning? The scanning, then he asked also drones. I don't think we need drones this early, to be honest with you. I think it's just scanning, because you can get what drones do, you can get away with just other hand tools and stuff initially, personally. But what do you guys think? Are drones super required? For me, they're not. I mean, if you're talking basics,
scanning's in. The whole, if you look at the Piracy episode that X did with that sort of stuff,
long range scanning though is what we're talking. Really, you need long range scanning. You can't. You can't at the moment sit at Yella and detect someone at Damer.
No, but I don't think you're going to be able to do that with any sort of degree of accuracy anyway. But I mean, if you look at the Piracy episode that you did with Majans and that group, the Piracy, and they talk about scanning already. They know if they're picking up at something at 30k instead of 20k, it's a ship. So they've got a 60k bubble they can scan stuff in, and that's not insignificant. They can sit near orbital markers and follow people around, and Most people when they're mining are incredibly lazy. They just orbital, they quantum travel down to somewhere on the planet, which is really dumb because it gives me a starting point as a pirate. I sit up above about 20k off. I scan and I will find, when we had the Halloween event and we were going to these outposts to find the helmets, every outpost I went to, 4 or 5 miners dotted about. As I approached, I would come up with contacts here, there, and everywhere, and they were prospectors because I looked at them and and targeted them and all that sort of stuff. And it's ridiculous. If the pirates are going to find those people, and I would imagine it is those people who complain then about piracy taking place, and there are ways you can protect yourself. Yes, your credits per minute are going to have to take a hit. Because now you're going to have to go to an orbital marker, point at the planet, and manually fly yourself down. Or you're going to have to quantum travel to somewhere and then spend a very long time traveling away from that outpost to find something else. But this is the trade-off. If it's safe enough to be doing that, you're probably not going to get a massive reward from the minerals that are there. That's not how the game's going to be set up, I would think.
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're right about basically what you're saying, but I hope that when they're designing these systems and then putting them into place, that, yes, you should be rewarded for the difficulty, but I hope you don't have to necessarily go through that difficulty to be lucky enough to find rare resources or particular things that have value. So there's something to be said for going through a pirate and finding a very rare resource. There's also something to be said for that resource being found in Stanton just being far less plentiful and just having to look for it. So the risk reward factor there's also time reward factor. So if you're willing to put the time in to find something or to do something, I hope they give you the opportunity to do that. Risk reward. I mean, I would love if they put some very rare salvage or minerals, or whatever it's going to be in the middle of Spider. That would, in the long term of the game, because that would be hilarious.
I've got to say this or I'm going to forget because I've forgotten it 3 times already. I think a lot of people right now are used to the status quo. And I think a lot of people, especially as we get older, I think this is a human condition thing. We are very resistant to change. And I think people have probably got a little bit too comfortable with how things are right now. Do you guys agree with that? Or they don't, I do my cargo runs this way and you're going to change them, and I am not happy with that.
I think there's certainly an element of that, yeah.
I mean, when the last time cargo had meaning for me was when Levski was in the system, it was in the game. And the reason why was because Levski's not Grim Hex. It's, a neutral environment, but you could be pirated there. I can't tell you how many times bringing in a cargo load in a Connie, I was attacked. But, it added something to the gameplay, right? Because you could sell certain things at Levski for a very good profit. So that to me was the last time cargo was in a decent place. Looking at risk reward for the game and looking at the depth of the gameplay, I don't play much right now. And when I do, it's actually probably with UX and a couple other people, just because we're doing something fun and you're hanging out with friends. That's where the value is. Star Citizen, are people going to be upset when these systems come in? Yeah. Because all of a sudden repairing your ship isn't going to be landing and then it magically gets repaired. It's going to be, you have to store your ship, go into the station, wait there for 30 minutes, and then your ship's going to be repaired.
Or it just sits in a hangar and the AI is there fixing it. So
I mean, I think that's eventually where they're going to get, but I know it's going to be hand waving in the beginning. It's going to be, here's a timer, here's what it's going to take, and then eventually, I think they're going to do AI. As far as that question about drones and scanning, drones are definitely going to add a lot of gameplay. But I mean, they're just not, like you said, it's not required for any system. You can repair without a drone, you can fuel without a drone.
So
I do wonder if. Sorry, go on.
Shinobi Trip in chat just brought up a really good point. He says, I'm not a miner, but I wouldn't be surprised if CIG moves 90% of Quantanium to Pyro when it opens up. Going along with what you said. And I'd agree with that. That makes a lot of sense. It's going to force a lot of people to try and go into Pyro, and they're going to get rudely interrupted by that, and then go, oh shit. And it'll test the system too. That makes a lot of sense. If they're forcing a lot of people, or trying to force a lot of people to go to Pyro, it's going to get the things tested. We've noticed anytime they want something tested, they dial it up to 11. Look what it's about to happen with selling the space station Korea. They're forcing everyone to go to one place, and they've put two things there. They've put an incentive to go there, and it's the only place you can remove a crime stat. All in one place. Literally forcing as many people into one area as possible to test that system.
I think that what we're going to end up seeing when Pyro comes online is right now we have amazing orgs out there. Some of them are designing and executing really fun events. But the more systems they add, both game systems, and then the more star systems they add, if you're planning on playing by yourself, I think orgs, first of all, I like the way that they have orgs designed with CIG. That you can be members of multiple, that they can be organized in particular ways. The tools aren't great, but they're not bad. But being a member of a player org in Pyro is going to be mandatory. Like, I just don't see how you can go mine in Pyro without having some type of support network.
I'd say initially, yeah, but down the road you'd be able to go, right, I need to hire an escort, so you can put out a beacon or whatever and say, look, I'm looking for escorts for such. I think a little bit of it will be done through general chat initially as well. I think I learned anything from those pirate episodes is do not underestimate people's resolve.
Can someone in Twitch chat just clip the bit where X said he needs to hire an escort? Because I could do so much with that voice line. Just send me the link in Twitch.
Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Fuck you.
Yeah, no, I see eventually where Pyro is going, and why being an org member is going to be important is that that's going to give you the resources. So there are two types of support you're going to need in Pyro. The first one's going to be security, and the second one is going to need to be sustainment. Mm-hmm. And if you can't, sustainment's really what orgs are going to be good at in Pyro, and that's and they're going to exceed all expectations of CIG and us as players, because you're going to see some org, or probably multiple orgs taking on different aspects of fueling, of repair, of logistics and cargo movement. Like, hey, you're mining. Why take your mole all the way back to Stanton? I will take your cargo and sell it for this cut. This org does this piece. So, the funny thing to me is most gameplay in MMOs is player driven anyway. Good MMOs create systems that allow player driven content.
I wasn't able to do a sound test today, Danger Dave 2000. So yes, they probably could be louder than me because I started out the show solo and they jumped in as they were available. So yeah, I've just turned myself up a little bit. So hopefully that resolves that issue for you. Apologies for that. Next question then. Question execute. Do you still work on games? No, not anymore. I don't. Do YouTube now. That's it. I do have ideas for games though. And I have a relative, it's a weird way to say it, but he's a relative of a relative that still makes mobile phone games, and he always calls me every once in a while, bounces some ideas off me because I used to do game design. So, and he's made a fair bit of money off that. So yeah, maybe I should start charging him royalties. I probably should. Global Game Night says, question, do you think the Perseus will increase in size? What would need to be done for it to be worth its price? Lower the price. Problem solved. Badges?
Sorry, thanks for that, Lemming. You're a legend. Thank you ever so much.
I sent you a sound clip.
Yoink.
That's going to come back to bite me. Literally.
A little bit. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Sorry, I'm jumping back up to stream questions now and catching up again.
If we ever have, I phone you, that can be the sound notification that rings. I need an escort! Just...
Yes. Could you repeat the question, sir? I was too busy trying to stitch you up and get you an escort.
Essay, what were you going to say about the question that was asked? That was actually relevant. We totally steered off topic again.
Yeah, no, what was it? The Perseus, right?
What would make it justify its price? Yes.
Nothing. I mean, the Perseus is overpriced. There's nothing you can do about it. And I know Badgers loves it. It's still overpriced. That doesn't change the fact that
Badgers knows it's overpriced. He said as much.
I think for it to justify its price, it would have to be upsized to compete with the Polaris.
It's
So you'd have to take those turrets and you'd basically have to turn it into like almost like a Polaris variant or a Polaris competitor.
Hey, zombie girl. She said hello, so I'm just saying hello back. But can't you just reduce the price? I guess you can't now because it's already been sold at that price, hasn't it?
Yeah, I
so
mean,
that's where you come in. Okay, yeah, all right. Now
I mean, they could get creative and do something like
you get 2 for 1. There you go. You get 2 for 1.
Yeah, pretty much. The Perseus has
just
a very unique role. I think.
Imagine you wouldn't complain of that if they gave you a second one, would you?
No, I don't think there's anything they can do to fix it. It doesn't make sense to make it bigger, just because of its role. If you make it bigger, it's going to be slower. You have to upsize the guns, which is just going to make it a balance challenge. And I've always imagined what made Badgers want to buy it is that image of it basically slicing another ship in half with guns and its hull. Like that's not going to happen if it grows to justify the price. So
I think you'll all agree if you look at kind of where the Perseus is on. I think the only other ship that, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, like I go Perseus, then the next one's the Javelin. I think there was definitely room in there for something that's more tanky based. You know what I mean? Because the Javelin's tanky,
Massively.
The Perseus is tanky, the Polaris is not that, the Kraken's not that, the Hammerhead is not that either because it's kind of, well, it's similar to the size in Perseus anyway. You get what I'm trying to say? There's something Corvette size that would be really cool to have tanky. Or Aegis, yeah, but I think Anvil, like everyone keeps coming back. Yeah, okay, I'll give you the Aegis. That's fairly tanky.
I mean, I know currently it's tanky. I don't see it staying there.
But even if it is, right, just for argument's sake, Aegis. Sorry, you've done it to me now. Aegis to Perseus is still a fairly large gap. I think there's a Corvette size one there at the very least that we can fit in there, and that's where that rumored Anvil thing keeps dropping. It's that size.
Jados Mercy, that thing you heard that sounded suspiciously like fapping was fapping.
Yeah.
X suggested that instead of price dropping the Perseus to make it worth it, they just gave us 2. And then SA started talking about the Perseus slicing the Hammerhead, and I'm not going to lie, I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's no, I agree. There's definitely a gap there where you need something in there for front of the line.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm just going to reiterate what I said earlier. This is why we can't have nice things, SA. All right.
Yeah.
We are coming up to the 3-hour mark. So I'm going to run this until Badger says he's got to go, basically. So once you say you got to go, Badgers, we're going to head off. So it's up to you.
Yeah, I have another.
I feel like I've busted my 2-hour must be doing shit by 9:30. So
yeah. What'd you say?
Full send.
I got about another 15 minutes.
Yep. So yeah, because you've got people waiting on you, don't you?
Yeah.
And I don't want to. All his family is waiting for him in the background. Pages at his work. So
they're all just stood there like that.
Yeah, they're just there with screens apparently, and I didn't like them.
No, actually, they're screaming in the other room. It's freaking hilarious. So,
really?
For everybody out there, I'm at my office. I'm transitioning offices. I'm actually building a home office right now, but I'm at my remote office, and all my kids are in the other room, and they have tons of toys here, and it is like, yeah, it's chaos.
Organized chaos. Insanity. That's SA's life. Organized chaos.
Not organized. No organized.
So anybody out there that's military, like I'll just give you this one because you'll get this. I do this a lot. So for those uninitiated, this is called knife hand. It's a.
Isn't it a variant of slapping? Just instead of this, you karate chop them instead.
We call it command hand or PWO hand, but you know when that comes out, shit's getting serious. Yeah,
you're in big trouble now.
You point at somebody like this, like I mean, I can say to my kids like, "Stop it now," and like whatever they're doing, they just stop and kind of look around a little bit, and like, okay, don't move no sudden movements,
or I'll slap you.
No, it's like Dad becomes T-Rex, right?
Yeah.
Like
on a scale of amused to knife hand, how pissed off is Dad?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
nice.
Next question then. Let's try and do some rapid fire ones because we've got heaps here left and there's no way we're going to get through them all. So, do you guys believe the A1 is the Star Bomber that was rumored earlier? I think it was like a year ago, but yes, I do.
If you look at the art, yeah.
Badges?
Yes.
I think it was that rolled into the Spirit. I think that's the easiest way to cover that one. All right, that was from Axis 96. Then we've got Brock says, beyond not carrying as many ships, why do people compare Kraken Idris to Javelin? I would have to have spent $15,000 to get the Idris M instead of $4,500 for the Idris P. Javelin, bad move. I think Javelin's just because they're capital ships. Right, I think it's the same thing where people compare the Polaris to a Kraken because they're all capital. They're all in the same size class. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
So yeah, it's just a class comparison. Jeff Woke asks, question: wouldn't the Liberator be more of a ferry? Yes.
Yes,
Because
it's a shipping ship, as Badgers likes to say. Yeah.
Yeah, because it also is a bit of a weird spot because it does vehicles and ships, where I think you're more likely to do one or the other rather than both. If they'd made it so it did all all vehicles, I think it would be quite fine. In fact, I would have had it with modules so you could actually have 4 vehicles or 4 ships. And one of the ones
the ships on it make no sense. It just doesn't. It can't even refuel them. It just the Liberator is just a.
I pitched it to Badgers at one point. I said, wouldn't it be really cool if it was like 4 platforms and they rotated? Because that way you could have ships and just rotate them so they're under, and then have 2 more ships land on top.
I think we already have the M2. The Liberator should have been a light carrier, basically. It should have been a little bit longer, had 3 small pads on it, or 3 extra small pads, the ability to refuel, no vehicles.
Yep.
Like that would have made sense.
So the whole internal underneath area would have just been cargo.
Yeah, basically, or even like lifts to take it down to repair it, shuts.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, you take it down and then you can drive it forward and have 2 vehicles underneath. That's the same thing as my rotating idea. Mine was just, I was trying to be very creative with it rotating.
Yeah, I mean, the Liberator is an extremely poor concept, and it's almost like a slap in the face to M2 owners because it's cheaper, which are like for what it does. It's like a far better bargain.
It was $50 more at concept.
Yes, yeah. But you can take far more vehicles in aircraft for that money. It's far cheaper when it comes down to the value, like what it brings.
Oh, I don't disagree. I do think that'll probably end up being about $650 though when it's all said and done. So you're talking about one that's released versus unreleased, but I do get your point.
Sorry, we missed one. Alphonse Zhu asked, will the defeated enemies in bunker missions persist now in 3.18 for us to loot? I would guess there will be very little change.
It seems to be body count at the moment. Like there's only a certain amount of ragdolls they can have, and once you kind of exceed that, the server starts to remove them because of
performance
and persistence. Yeah,
I don't think that's going to change because obviously, if they were to persist, then give it a couple of weeks, and those bonkers will literally be floor to ceiling bodies.
So what they probably will end up putting in is something like what'll happen. What it's happened in other games is instead of them having bodies there, the bodies will disappear and they'll leave behind a crate. And then you go up to the crate and it'll have all the armor in it and all the components and stuff. That's what they've done in other games. So, because that way it's just a box that has no physics on it and it's the same model over and over and over. So it uses less RAM and memory usage. So that's just why they do it in other games. I've got to assume that that's probably what they'll do here. But yeah. What's the next question? I'll let you read them then, Badges.
Carl Smith says, do you think CIG will ever do anything similar to the next great Starship again? Maybe simpler, like having the community vote on fan design submissions for a ship given a manufacturer and role? I would go no, because the first one was a pig.
I would love them to do it again. They even looked at doing the next great Star Marine, and the whole reason that never eventuated because it was a job searching thing. And what they realized was after they did it was to bring people up to speed, they had to train them anyway. And in the time it took to train them anyway, you might as well just train fresh people. You don't really need to go looking for people as much as just train them anyway. And then what happened was after the next great Star Marine, Frankfurt joined the team. And once Frankfurt came in, they had all the people they not all the people they needed, but at the time, a lot more people than what they needed. So I think if they did it, it would be for fun.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for them to do it again. I actually really enjoyed that program, although the final vote was a complete disaster. But the reason they'll never do it again is simply because of the design pipeline process.
Yep.
It's too complicated to bring in outside people, like X just said, train them in these systems. Time consuming and resource wise, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. I could see them doing it in a way where, I think Badgers, you just said something similar to this, where they help design a ship. Like, hey, I'm going to come up with a concept. We're going to do the art portion of it, but they actually won't build it.
Yeah, I think if they did do it, they would have to have it with the thing that they can say, like, yeah, thanks for all the things, but none of the ships worked out for what we want to put in game. And I think the other thing about that if you go back and look at that next great starship, because a lot of the manufacturers hadn't been worked out, they just didn't fit the manufacturers. Like the one that came second, that was called the Boom Slang. It was I really liked it. Right, it's my favorite Origin ship. But it's not an Origin ship. It is like an Aegis or something else. And they just picked Origin because that was the one that they liked. But you can clearly now look at that and go, that does not fit the Origin aesthetics. For example, it's black. They just generally, like, I know there are some black skins for Origin, but defaultly they're all that white and blue type, white with blue engine highlights. So, yeah.
Even if you look at the manufacturers, I mean, more manufacturers have been added to the game than originally existed.
Yeah.
When that happened. So, I mean, do I see them would it be cool if they did something like that again? Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to get the community involved, but I think they're going to probably just stick to the voting on these silhouettes type of program more than contest.
I would love to say contact Sandy and see if she'd be willing to do one again where the community puts up some prize money and basically they just officially run it, but you just win some money at the end, right? With no guarantee that they ever put that in the game, but what we would ask CIG is, hey, would you consider looking at the last 3 entrants or something like that? And maybe they come along and judge it all, and I've got no problem with them judging it or anything like that. I don't know, maybe it just takes up too much of their time. Again, you've got to get Chris together, you'd have to get Todd Pappy, you'd probably have to get John Crew. These guys are pretty busy, and for them to do that once a week is a pretty big ask, especially if you think about how they film stuff, you'd be looking at a couple of hours a week to do that, and that takes a lot of time away from development, especially when they're filming is probably more likely going to be in work hours. So it's a pretty big ask, I think. But if we had community, if you got a lot of community people involved and it was just for a bit of fun, I could see them doing it like that. But I don't think you'd be able to hold CIG to the flame to get them to make it, unfortunately. Badgers, you've been very quiet. What's your thoughts?
I genuinely just think half the problem we had with the Redeemer was because it was community and they weren't getting the updates. It is absolutely not worth CIG's time. Don't get me wrong. I love the next great starship. It's one of the reasons I backed.
Yep.
Because I didn't find it until it was all over, but I watched the whole series through like, an absolute addict, just from one to the next going, what's next? I loved it. And for a game to have that sort of stuff in, maybe after launch, when the pressure's off and things are slowing down, maybe then design a variant of.
I could see them after launch once the pipeline is slowed down, and this is probably 10 years off, unfortunately, for us. But I could see them assigning a ship developer, like a ship designer, to a group. It's the same thing they had before, but they have 4 ship designers, and then they go through the same thing, and the ship designer works with them to actually build that ship out. So
from a devil's advocate,
I
was just going to say, from a devil's advocate perspective, though, Badgers, also, I think as a community now, we understand the manufacturers a lot better than we did.
Yes.
So, yeah. But I think you'd also agree CIG don't tend to ever try something twice. They kind of go, ooh, this is going to, like how they've never tried to get another community person, because the last time they got one of those, it went horribly, horribly bad.
And, I don't see it being one of manufacturers necessarily. I think it's more a case of, the next great starship happened at the point when funding was going mental, and they suddenly realized that they couldn't just change the scope for the game. They had to completely reimagine it. And that meant that this idea of this gunship, dropship thing that the Redeemer was going to be kind of stepped on too many toes, that they needed to diversify the amount of ships that they were going to get. And,
You kind of put it there as well, because they asked for a gunship and they gave them a dropship.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know?
I think we've beaten this horse into glue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Anyway, it's just something that we don't get to talk about too often, and it is something I'm very passionate about. I really love that. It's kind of what Badger said. I really, really love that Next Great Starship, and it was the best community event they've ever done. All right, you're under asked question. Here is the real question: how much repair / rearm / refueling will they be able to do on foot from the Liberator's cargo supplies? As much as you can, as much as you can do as on a cargo that you have.
If the example that the way you can tell, I don't want to say that it's a poor design. It could be very intentional, but the fact that there is no direct lift from the cargo bay up into the deck to resupply fighters tells you how much you're going to do, which is diddly.
Yeah.
You literally have to go across the bay at the bottom to get into the lift, take it all the way up, and then walk out onto the deck. So if you're going to be doing that with fuel, and and you're that committed, more power to you. But you know,
that's why I wanted that
designed to service.
That's why I wanted that rotating thing, because when I looked at it, like how do you have 5 ships in that space? And you know, like you said, if they were both on elevators and they came down, so you could then work on them. But then what happens if the 2 vehicles are there? You just can't have the vehicles there. So the only way I came up with was if it could rotate. And
to me, that's a fair exchange though, because like it makes you choose: do you want vehicles on your deck or do you want fighters?
Yeah,
and that to me kind of brings it more in line with what the M2's purpose is. I think what we'd end up seeing if that occurred is that would be your mini pocket carrier, and your M2 would then go back to your main vehicle delivery system.
Well, people would just drop one of the vehicles and just have one that goes up and down, and you could move. You could rotate them around, as in drive them around. Awkwardly, but you could do it by having one less vehicle down there. You could do that.
The Liberator in itself, it'll definitely get reconcepted because the concept is just weird.
Oh, I think Badgers will say, "I hope you're right," essay. So yeah, would you say that?
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, the one thing, and Badgers, I know you'll appreciate this being a Navy guy. The fact that there's no bunks for the pilots, it's just like there's literally a ready room and there's no place to sleep.
Yeah, which makes it a shipping ship and not a carrier.
Yeah. But why is there even why in the hell even have a ready room? At all? Because a ready room implies that you are stationed on that ship, and that is where you prepare for mission.
Well, it's for no long range. It's only for travel, not for long range travel, is what it kind of tells me as well. Because
then you don't need a ready room. That's my point. Like they have rooms in there that are completely pointless for the ship. But anyways,
I think it kind of shows that CIG still just don't have that military thinking. I'm really surprised they don't have some kind of military advisor. I'm not surprised they don't test it. Like, I'm not saying they have to use content creators. I actually think they should get military advisors and some content creators and just ask what people are going to accept. These
2 guys right here, CIG, hire us. We will go over all of your ships. I will take on FPS.
No, they're mine. They're mine. You can't have them. They're mine. No, that's fine.
I'm genuinely tempted to just throw a CV together and sling it their way just to see what happens.
Exactly. I mean, like for me, it's that thing of where they've been working on FPS combat, and some of it has to be gamified, has to be gameplay, but even certain very basic things about stuff they've already designed, I'm looking at it saying like that's not going to end up staying that way based off of the way they want the game to go, the pace of the game, and it's just like they do need advisors. You're right. They need what was it? It's not Tripal. It was Pyroworm. To do minerals and mining and stuff like that. They're clearly using people, but their ship design, especially for the ships intended for FPS, they're dropships and support ships. They're just not designed to do what they say they're supposed to do.
All right, I want to get through the 6 questions in this next section. I want to get through those 6 and then we'll call it a day. So Johnny McJohnface asks, after Piracy rework reveal, as a fellow Perseus owner, are you too like the boyfriend looking over his shoulder meme with his angry missus? Yeah, I actually even sent that meme to Badgers. I shit you not. The day that came out, that's what I sent to Badgers. So Badgers, were you tempted at all by the Polaris?
No.
Full of shit. I'm going to go back and look at the response.
No. But the reason is actually a genuine one. It's not the cult of Perseus. It's I foresee myself playing with 4 or 5 people on a regular basis.
He regularly plays. Someone clip that. He regularly plays with 3 or 4 people. There you go.
I mean, if you've got it, flaunt it.
That's it.
But if I can see myself playing with that sort of number of people. So that's going to work for the Perseus, and that's why if you look at the other ships that I've mentioned, Reclaimer, all the other stuff that I like, that all sits in that crew range. The problem with the Polaris, as far as I can see, is I'm going to need a lot more people to be able to run that regularly to its, the best of its ability. So
the gameplay is so different too. I mean, I think that's something that we don't appreciate. I know, I'm not a Navy guy, but I worked in joint operations, and you just know what different ships are capable of. And the Polaris is a hit and run, fast attack, first strike, low energy signature. Basically it's the equivalent of a submarine in Star Citizen, whereas like the Perseus is your punch him in the frickin' nose.
Absolutely.
You want the good news or the bad news?
ISC just come out.
Yeah.
Too late.
If you guys have got to go, you can go. But
I'm happy to remain if SA wants to, go and do family things.
Well,
I'm happy to remain if people want to have a look.
These last questions, then I'll head out. And you guys
let's do that then. Okay, rapid fire. Dan Little 2010 asks, "What is your favourite Pico plush model?"
None of them. Next question.
The one in the BDSM gear. M Walker 300 asks, "Do you think they will ever make a Terraformer mod for the Endeavour?" Terraformer mod, sorry.
No, it's not designed to land, so no.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll ever see terraforming in game. Not as a player profession. We might see it as like a long-term quest or the start of terraforming on a planet or something like that. But I don't think it'll be a player profession. It will just take too long.
They said.
Yeah. Next question.
Prone Excavator asks, "Do you think players will ever build and own space stations?"
Yes.
Own yes, build no.
Maybe. The build part, maybe.
Eventually, I could see them building them. Eventually, I could see an organization being able to put together money and build, buy modules and build a space station. Eventually,
we have shop ships. Why wouldn't we be able to build shops on a station?
It's basically a ship that doesn't move. It's like take your Banyu merchantman and just park it on an asteroid.
Me and Algra did a whole episode on it 2 or 3 years ago at this point, where we're going like, look, this all lines up, makes sense, and it viewed terribly. We spent months on it before we actually did it, and it viewed terribly. I can't remember.
That's why I think it's not going to happen. Jackaboom TV says, "Hi X." Says, "Would you buy or keep an 890 jump or Pioneer with 10 years insurance?"
If that's all you can get, then yes. You can always. You can always melt it and try and get a better one. But if you can't, just get it back from buyback. So yeah.
I'm not trying to insult anybody with this, but neither of those ships are worth purchasing for what you get in value of gameplay, in my opinion. Like, it's not that they aren't really cool and they'd be great to have, but your funds in the game can go to far better solutions and ships in the game.
I'm not entirely sure on the Pioneer myself yet, but with the 890 jump, I agree. The only
reason I say with the Pioneer is because the Pioneer literally is going to be extremely slow and do one thing, and it's not going to do it quickly.
Well, they've changed it a little bit with the manufacturing. So until they drop what manufacturing, like we've got different design docs for different things. We just don't have that for manufacturing, so we don't know what it is, or base building for that matter. We don't have that either. We've got repair, we've got refueling, we've got all the almost all the others, but we don't have that, so we can't answer that question.
Based off of that, this is a question I have for both of you. Just a quick yes or no. Was it a mistake to introduce the Pioneer?
I think they did kind of do it a little bit too early, and I think it also shows because of its rarity that Badgers alluded to earlier, is because they're a little bit unsure. I think that is a real big reason why it's very limited.
I think they were looking at land claims, and they were looking at the ability to basically own planet-side property, and they knew they wanted to do a construction ship, so boom, let's go sell this and let's get this out there. They clearly had no thought process on how this was actually going to do what they sold it to do. So I think it was an incredibly poor choice on their part to bring that to market.
And the final question, which is good because the last question before ISC, that is before because the next question's got space cows in it. A Kraken P is basically a mini space station? Question mark?
Yes, it is. So you could set it up there with the shops. If you think of the Merchantman as a ship that visits other people, this is a mall. You set up a mall somewhere above a station, a planet that doesn't have a space station, and then it allows bigger ships like the Ds and the Es and things like that to drop cargo off on you, and you can have As and Bs on the pads shipping stuff down to the planet. It essentially is the closest thing we currently have to a mobile space station. I think that is. It's a mini space station. That's probably the easiest way to look at it. It's
like any carrier, in the world. They're basically miniature airfields. Same thing, miniature space station.
You could do the same thing with a Kraken though, but you just don't have the shops. So you can't. How do you buy the cargo off a C or a D? It would have to be your own. It'd have to be your own cargo ship delivering it to your own cargo ship. That's why you need the shops, so you can trade with other people.
Yeah, I don't think you do. I think that they're going to put mechanics in the game where you can trade directly with each other. So you could have somebody running a Kraken and basically pull a multi-glass. It
definitely makes it a bit easier though, because then you can have I can own the ship, but I can have 3 different people that own the shops, so I don't have to deal with that, but they just all pay me a fee. So
as a bonus, I'm just going to say, most valuable ship that you can have if you own a Kraken, SRV.
100% agree with that. Yep. Badges? Anything else or no? No.
Yes, it's a space station.
Yes. All right. So we'll say goodbye to SA. Everyone say goodbye to SA. Have fun with the fam. Cheers, thanks for joining us, buddy. We'll go watch ISC without you. And take care. Well, I'm just going to cut you off. You're going. Disappear.
And for those that enjoyed the kind of what would it take episodes that SA and I have done with X, we're hoping to put one together in the new year. So
soon. Very soon.
It will be soon. TM.
Yep. All right. ISC that I am not set up for, so this is going to be a mess as well. So just give me a second. No, I am set up for it. Woohoo! I've got to redo this so you can see. Just give me a second.
Can I just say, it hasn't gone unnoticed. There has been some hardcore attempts at trolling and triggering badges with the Liberator chat in YouTube. Well done, guys. That is some sustained fun. Well, it's been quite funny to watch it go. But yeah, anyway, ISC.
Here we go.
Hello everyone, welcome to Inside Star Citizen. I'm Jared Huckabee, and this is it. It's the end of the year. The much anticipated Alpha 3.18 is being hammered away on by developers and citizen testers alike, and it's that time where we look back and reflect on many of the more memorable events and additions to the Star Citizen experience in a special episode we like to call the Star Citizen Year in Review 2022. Because sometimes you just call a thing what it is. Let's get to it.
Woo!
We'll start things off with some of the big ticket feature items, and perhaps none were bigger than the server cap increase, which saw the persistent universe population increase from 50 to 100, paving the way for things like Siege of Origin, changing the dynamic for events like Jumptown, and as you can see here, the collective re-entry of 100 simultaneous spacecraft, and the loudest I've ever heard the VFX team giggle. And let me tell you, they're gigglers. Player refueling also made its debut in 2022, enabling the peer-to-peer profession that allows for a new way to help your fellow citizens and make a buck along the way, an important step ahead for the upcoming inclusion of the Pyro system, where gas stations will be few and far between in the wide open and desolate wastes, where anarchy reigns and everyone must fend for themselves. It's basically Los Angeles on Black Friday. In addition to refueling, the arrival of mining gadgets brought another refinement to that profession, providing new and improved means for making your fortunes out in the verse, and then coming back to liquidate that and almost everything else with the new selling mechanic, allowing players to finally clear out much of what filled their inventories for profit. Why can you make so much money in video games and not in real life? That's my mom asking, not me. There were also plenty of new places to visit and have adventures, including a variety of new derelict spacecraft, both floating in space and crashed down on the surface of Stanton's planets and moons. These derelicts not only add to the visual texture and history of the persistent universe, they provide numerous opportunities for mission and loot gameplay as more and more continue to be added throughout this last year and the next. And the same can also be said for derelict outposts and rivers, which began with a single estuary on Microtech and continued to develop throughout the year into a watershed release included in the upcoming Alpha 318. But for me, the highlight of River Tech has been the ascendance of Will Hain to River Guy in the YouTube comments. More hospitals were added to the persistent universe in 22, as important an aspect as any for those of us who spend most of our time waking up in medical beds rather than exploring the universe. It's not that I'm bad, it's just that everyone else is better. Especially at racing in the first of several community-initiated in-universe racetracks such as the Snake Pit, which began with the XGR racing community exploding in popularity this year and an exciting initiative within development to canonize creations from the players into the persistent universe proper that will continue in the upcoming Alpha 318 and beyond. And speaking of the community, much of what made Star Citizens 2022 special was created by the community itself, including recurring events like Fight or Flight, the largest 2v2 PvP dogfighting tournament in the verse, the Hurston Hurt Locker, a battle royal event on Magda that features lots of mayhem and death where almost anything goes and precious few survive, and the classic Daymar Rally, a canonized staple that kicks off each year with a 500-kilometer race with multiple divisions and loads of ground vehicle shenanigans. And in addition to competitive events, the role-playing scene in Star Citizen continued to evolve and take notice within both the community and development teams as players utilize tools within the game to report the news, create exciting narratives, and simply bring an increased sense of immersion to life in the persistent universe. And out of universe, the Bar Citizen World Tour kicked off as CIG staff traveled to cities, states, provinces, and countries around the world to break bread and tell tales with players from all walks of life. It's been a terrific return to form and a chance for players and developers to connect that will continue throughout 2023, so be sure to keep an eye on the website and socials for details and let us know when events are happening in your area. Other notable events were the Battle of the Bricks, where the Star Citizen and EVE Online community teams came together for charity in a battle of building blocks, trivia, weird challenges, and whatever a wolffish is. It's terrible. Terrible is what wolffish is. And then this year, CitizenCon kicked off with the official Journey to 4.0 initiative, with presentations from developers on exciting new gameplay systems like resource management, master modes, and investigations. The return of Chris Roberts to peel the curtain back on Squadron 42 developments that will benefit the persistent universe in the future, and we debuted the only constant, the spacecraft where ISC, SCL, and more will emanate from for the foreseeable future. And it still has a few tricks up its sleeve we hope to show you in 2023 and beyond. But back in the verse, while the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo and Invictus continued to be highlights of the year, the biggest dynamic event in Star Citizen's history happened with the Siege of Orison, where the vicious Ninetales took control of the floating platforms surrounding Orison and waged a multi-stage battle against players in a first-of-its-kind mixture of Star Citizen's FPS gameplay systems and an impetus for numerous technological improvements to the entire game as a whole, including the server cap increase we talked about before. And this year's Ship Showdown was a chance for community members to showcase their creativity in pushing their favorite ships and vehicles into contention to be named Best in Show at this year's IAE. And you can see some of that creativity here, and here, and here. Definitely a highlight of each and every year. And speaking about ships and vehicles, let's do a rundown of all the new ones that made their way flyable and drivable in 2022, including the Hull A, Hover Quad, Mule, Centurion, STV, Scorpius, Corsair, Cutter, and C8R Pisces. And that brings us to now, and the impending release of Alpha 3.18, which will add a whole lot more to this 2022 of Star Citizen highlights, including hole-stripping salvage gameplay. Yes, you and your trusty multi-tool, reclaimer, or brand new vulture have a new means to make your fortunes by finding and processing the remnants of space junk in the verse. This applies not only to destroyed player ships, but NPC hulks spawned throughout the Stanton system for you to discover and dismantle. The cargo refactor is here. The cargo refactor is here. Alpha 3.18 also brings with it the first iteration of the cargo refactor that will physicalize much of what we carry in our cargo holds and open up new avenues for cargo reclamation after disaster and potential piracy for the disaster causers of us out there. I'm looking at Tom. There's also the new PTV racetrack in Orison that aims to provide a new recreational activity for those looking for the low-stakes challenge of buggy competitions, or for the players that go out there and create emergent opportunities that I have no doubt none of us are prepared for. Can't wait to see what you do here. And the revitalization of Correa and the addition of additional sandbox prison activities, two components of an overall overhaul to the crime stat system that will be more lenient on what sends you to prison while providing new opportunities to remove crime stat before going and after escaping. 6 new persistent universe racetracks based on community creations that will bring players to several of the lesser traveled areas of the Stanton system and allow them to test their mettle against others, with new gateway and timer functionality being added alongside them. New Orison missions that run on the surrounding platforms when Siege of Orison is resting from all the mayhem. New Sand Cave archetypes in the Daymar crash site introduce the brand new Mercury and 600i derelicts being added to the persistent universe. And 2 new exciting technological advancements this year with the implementation of the Gen 12 renderer and persistent entity streaming, which both convert the current persistent universe to new graphical and technological foundations that serve as the new basis for persistent universe's continued development, as well as set the stage for Star Citizen to realize its fullest potential in the years to come through server meshing, increased player and resource caps, and the addition of new star systems like Pyro, Nyx, and beyond. And going on right now is Luminalia, where players can log in each and every day to redeem a variety of in-game gifts, including holiday sweaters, undersuits, new paints for the 100i, Avenger, and more. Remember, it is 12 days, folks. And a sextant that Ben Curtis has really wanted to get in there for a while. I mean, it's cool. So, what did we learn this year? Well, I'd say a whole heck of a lot. But at the core of it all, to me, this year seemed to be about celebrating and renewing that connection between player and developer that's been at the heart of this project since it first launched in 2012. It's been said often, and probably by folks much better than myself, but it bears repeating over and over and over again that none of this happens without your continued involvement, whether that's playing the game, discussing on Spectrum, reporting on the issue council, supporting through pledging, encouraging through Bar Citizens, creating and streaming through social media and contests and the like, or simply allowing us into your lives most weeks while we share the who we are and what we do with you through ISC and SCL and the like. It's kind of ridiculous that I get to stand here on a spaceship and represent the work of over 800 strong with you, from game directors to QA testers, from major features like salvage and cargo, down to little internal tools like asset validators, and I can hardly wait to see what 2023 has in store for us. This journey we're on can be exciting, rewarding, educational, consuming, and if we're being honest, a little frustrating at times. But there isn't another one remotely like it in the entire game industry, with so many dedicated to bringing this universe of possibility to life. So, for one last time in 2022, for Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Happy holidays, be safe, and we'll see you all here next year.
Alrighty then. I think that kind of, to me, Badges, kind of was a good refresher. For me, it just kind of showed what we've been through all this year. And one thing I do notice is,
That you didn't press record at the beginning of that?
No, I didn't intend to. It's fine.
Shit. Oh, Roger. Okay.
Yeah. There are certain ones that just don't track well. That was one of them, and the one last week didn't track well either. So it's certain episodes that won't track. So yeah, I'm just gonna cherry pick.
It's because I wasn't there.
Probably. I don't know. For me, it was a good reflection of the year. I do like to reflect on that episode, but excuse me, there's a lot of people that'll just pass on that as an episode because there's nothing really new in it. But yeah, I don't know. Did you get anything out of it?
Yeah. So look, this is a very common time of year for all teams, not just computer games. I mean, like we're going through a similar process where I work of being able to reflect on what's been achieved, you know, because people often won't tell spring break from spring break. You know, when you get a little bit older, summer will be different. If you don't have kids, you know, they blur. Whereas Christmas is one of those times of the year where it's more of a landmark, it's more of an event. So it's more meaningful to look back to last Christmas and remember where you are. And I'm not throwing shade. I'm not targeting morphologists specifically, but he is the person I remember. You remember, go back to the beginning of 2022 and people were saying it was going to be such a non-event this year that, you know, it was just going to be blah, 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 blah. And, you know, we are, at the beginning of the year, we had what will be 2 less game loops than we have by the end of the year. We refueling, and we're going to have salvage very, very shortly, tier 0 or tier 1 or whatever it is called this week. And it's important to look back and see the progress, and realize that we are, and just having that moment of reflection. So I've seen so many discussions. Well, there's been so little for whatever it is XYZ this year, and then someone goes, "Well, hang on, no, we've had this, that, and the other," and almost everyone who's not on a mission to troll will go, "Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, no, we have actually had quite a bit." And the one big thing that I take from this is, you know, I think the thing that stands out to me the most are those 6 racing tracks. Because where else do you go into a game, purposely go and find your own fun because the devs aren't supplying it for you, and rather than getting antsy about it or ignoring it, they take it and they enshrine it into the game. And they become permanent locations with, we hope soon, missions built about it. There isn't a journey like that. Jared's absolutely right with what he says at the end.
Yeah, he was.
You know, it is very rare, especially, you know, AAA studios. I mean, when was the last time Blizzard or Activision or Ubisoft or anything took anything that the players were doing and made it a core part of their game?
They tend to ignore the community, if anything, don't they? So, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, and I get it. And I know there are people waiting for surprises because we are on the cusp of that pyro server meshing, all that sort of stuff. I get the disappointment as well. I'm not saying that people are wrong, but I think it's a good reflect. You know,
what you're kind of just describing as those big landmark pillars of this game. And every time we've had a big pillar, it's always been this big speed bump that we've got to kind of ungracefully get over, you know. And there's a few content creators that just weren't here for the earlier ones, like back for 3.0 we had 8 months with no patch, 8.5 months, sorry, with no patch. At least we got incremental patches this year, you know, 17, 17.1, 17.2, 3, etc. We didn't get any of that in some years. 8.5 months with nothing, right?
Yeah.
And this is I think this is don't quote me, the 3rd or 4th time where we've had a big lull like that, and this was nowhere near as bad as
absolutely
as 3.0.
I agree, and I just want to respond there to Vizaris Paytonus. Apologies, mate, if I'm saying that wrong. I'm tired and like I can only do small words. He said, yeah, but they put making racetracks a priority over making space combat areas or ground combat areas. Are combat areas of the game not vocal enough? And again, I don't think I can understand why you feel like that, but I don't think it's a fair representation of what's actually happened. We've got those tiny little asteroid fields outside planets. We've got the outposts, both the ones that have been added that we know about and can find, and the ones you've got to go and find yourself. We've got more derelicts now. We've had Jumptown being spread out to multiple locations on the ground that exist even when Jumptown isn't there. I'm not entirely sure that's a fair characterization of what they've done.
So the devs that were free that probably did the racetracks had free time. When you do an attack area, there is more involved. There is a lot more involved in an attack area than a stationary racetrack, right? One got the very first track, the pit, the guy said he did that an hour and a half on his lunch break, right? So if he's done it in that amount of time, it's probably taken that same guy the entire day to do all 6. Just as a ballpark, right? And if one dev can do that much in one day, that's awesome, right? But there's no way one dev could do 6 attack areas in that time, because there's all the scripting and all that type of thing. You've got to run the AI, all that type of stuff. They've got to, the bounding areas of all that. It's a lot more work. We're just placing objects. It's pretty quick, So, and that's all he did. He just took some assets they had, the cranes and stuff, and he just went plop, 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 and it's done. All they essentially did was decorated something that was already there. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I get it. Again, I'm not trying to white knight. I'm genuinely looking at the way that I support this game, right? And always, unless something drastically goes wrong, I'm always going to support the game, because why would I be making content? Why would we be making content? Why would we back the game to the extent that we have if we don't have some faith in it?
Yeah.
If you're looking for just the negative, in the nicest possible way, you're in the wrong place.
Yep.
We are going to call out the bad calls as we've seen them. I think we've done that this year. I think we've done a really good job of calling out what we don't like. We've done it regularly this stream, even pricing and decisions for the Pioneer and all that sort of stuff. So we're with you guys. Those that are disappointed.
I think that's a kind of a strength of how we do this with multiple people, because we're always self-checking each other and stuff like that. And you guys tell us different in chat. Do you find us fairly balanced? Because I think having the multiple people makes it a bit different, So, sometimes I'll jump off the deep end with a speculation, and I'll have Badges or Alred pulling me back, going, "You're a crazy man," there, And by the same token, it goes the other way. So someone will say something about gameplay, and I'll say, maybe not so much, And that's a strength for us, not a weakness. And it's the same thing with the disagreement stuff that we talk about. Disagreeing makes us grow. And I don't know about you, Badges, but there was something I've said is almost every single Inforunner. I think the only one would be Loken, because we haven't spent enough time with him yet. But every single Inforunner has changed my mind on something over the years. Just because like they just change. They have a different perspective. Your military background has changed, and essays too have both changed my perspective on several things, because I just didn't have the conceptual ability to think like that. So,
and then there's the flip side of that as we get into, because of course it's the life I lived past tense, it's the life SA lives now. And you've been there to pull us back and go, guys, we get realism, but it's always got to come back to the gameplay at the end of the day. So you've got that nice complete loop of. I hope the guys enjoy it when we go a little bit off tangent and talk about the military stuff, because it's enjoyable. But at the end of the day, we've got to bring it back to the game, and there's no point in bringing it in if everyone's going to hate it.
Well, people would have possibly seen that as a tangent today, but I enjoy it. I enjoy listening to that perspective when you and SA get together, because you're the kind of two military guys in our group, and we don't often get to hear that, and it's just a world that I don't know. And I've learned to have a lot of respect for it, and I think a lot of people in chat. One of the things I've learned is that it's very prevalent in the United States. They are very pro-veterans and stuff like that, way more than they are here. I don't know if it's the same over there in the UK, but they are very respectful of veterans, and I've learnt that through family members that have gone there and things like that.
No, we can't. SA will get jealous.
What did he say?
Sorry, dude. Can you two just kiss already?
Yeah. All right. I think with that, then we'll wrap it up here. There is going to be no show next week because it's obviously Christmas Eve, for me here in Australia. But what I will do is I'll drop a Fix My Fleet for you guys. We've got one left in the bank, with Walker Bait, I believe is the one. So I'll drop that off, and that will give us Christmas off. Not many of you guys will be around anyway because you'll obviously be doing family stuff, so that seems appropriate. But the week after that, we'll be back with a stream, and we'll probably be back with an episode as well. But that will be all the ones we've saved up in the bank are gone. But that's why we did it, so we could kind of cruise through this holiday period of the year. So we got all those done, which was good. Like, subscribe, all that type of thing. That I'm terrible at the self-promotion stuff. Don't forget to ring the bell. We have had a lot of people telling us they're not getting all the videos. You obviously have to turn on all the notifications to get that. You can go the extra mile on Patreon if you want to back us on there. Is there anything you want to hear from people in the comments, Badges, while I'm thinking of it?
Reflect on your year. What is it you've enjoyed from Star Citizen? What's got you coming back? Because there's a lot of names in the chat that I recognise from the streams we've been doing this year, and also the new people. If you made the jump in, what is it that made it this year for you? Was the year to get your feet wet with Star Citizen? And
another way to kind of look at it and reflect on it is to go, what are you hoping to see next year? And I think the other part of that is if this year was a slow year for you, and next year, we're hoping that the server meshing all comes out about mid next year. It'd be really interesting to kind of put your comment there and then come back and look 12 months later and go, oh shit, a lot changed. Because I think next year is going to be a fairly big year. Hopefully, like fingers crossed, once server meshing comes in, there's going to be a lot more stuff that's been held back for so long that we get a bit of a contextual release. We'll see. So yeah, but yeah.
Well, shortly, I don't know if it was the end of CitizenCon or just afterwards, Jared actually said on camera, Pyro next year.
He did, which is probably why CitizenCon's going to be fairly big, because I think we'll get a lot more Pyro stuff. And if you kind of look at what happened this year, CitizenCon was really a preview of what was coming in 3.18, and I'd expect next year to be the same. So it'll be a preview of what's coming in whatever patch number that is, So yeah. Interesting to hear your guys' thoughts. We do read every comment. We don't reply to every comment, as Algrid would normally say. Well wishes to Algrid and his fam. I think he'll be fine. He's just very, very busy at the moment. You obviously know he's a school teacher as well, so he's doing all the marketing and stuff for the kids' final grades and stuff like that. And that does get to him and Paul, by the way, from the Astropub. So that's why you don't see Paul too much at this time of the year either. All right. With that, then, I think you've been Badges. I'm Execute, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. So that's where it's ended, but I'm just gonna come. Wait, wrong king. That one.
Yeah.
I just realized I didn't raid anyone on Twitch. So yeah, everyone that's hanging around gets this special little behind the scenes things. I need to find someone to raid. No worky. Why is nothing no worky? Nothing.
Yeah. Wait. Did you say we're still live on camera?
Yes. Yeah. That's it. That's the one.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's real snow, people. It's real snow.
No, it's not. It's just copium.
Yeah,
I've just got copium all over my desk.
Yeah,
I need it for every stream. Yeah, have a good Christmas, guys. All the best, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys in the new year. Because I'm not going to be back now. X, I did say I'm not going to be back till around about the 10th of January. That was a thing I communicated, right?
No, you didn't, but now I know.
Okay.
I'll let you choose who we raid. Do you want to raid Bogus Nogus or Detox?
What's the viewer videos? What's the viewer numbers on both?
Oh, Detox is the only one I really know, so we'll do Detox. Detox.
Oh yeah, do Detox because he's got less, so it evens it out.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So we'll go /
I'm gonna jump into Detox's stream first. Get there first.
Man, I gotta learn how to spell. It's terrible.
Yeah, you do.
It's Detox _T. Detox underscore TV.
Oh, Moist is streaming as well.
Who?
Moist.
Oh, I didn't see him. Well, I'm going to rate something different. So, yeah.
Cool.
We've rated Moist before, I think. Anyway, all right.
Moist.
You guys on Twitch. See you guys later. There they go. All right, you guys on YouTube. He's been Badges. I've been Execute. I'll catch you guys in a week or so. No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Have fun. Bye.